Sorry, I forgot to grab them. So we have Dot Agu recording for her own personal use. Glenda, are you recording to help with minutes for this evening?
Yes.
We had some changes to the agenda. The ones that are printed, Dawn, are those correct? The ones that were printed as people walked in today? We ask that everyone signs in so we can have accuracy with minutes and know who's here for the meeting. If you haven't signed in yet, do we have another sheet up there?
There's 2 sheets back.
Oh, I have 2. We'll put them back up then, or pass them around. Here, can you pass that down to Glenda? We can get that back up there then. So,
Should I go print another one? This one's full.
oh, sorry.
Is there one there?
Is there one now?
There's one here. Pat, are you speaking in addition to?
Yeah, it's a separate little quickie.
Okay, do you want to go ahead?
May I?
Sure. Yeah, but there's one more person on here.
You have their name?
No, I didn't write it down.
Mr. Engineer. And Mr. I'm not sure if one of the directors in Derry Township contacted you all to say thank you for the shared lane markings. I told him you should. He emailed me and said, thank you for the shared lane markings on 322. He's just become a road bicyclist. And I said, no, you should really thank the supervisors. He probably didn't, but I think I should pass on the word that he was really pleased with having those. And he's now doing bicycling for fitness and health and fight diabetes and all that good stuff, and so he was really pleased with that. The other little preface I'd like to make is our efforts to make Campbelltown a more viable community, blah, blah, blah. We are dumping a lot on you, and it means also that things just didn't get done in the past. And so as we address these things, we understand that you're picking up some of the crumbs that fell on the floor or whatever. The map that I just gave to you, which I introduced to you in June, which is the 2006 pedestrian map that was done officially and is in the comp plan, is one of those things that is also digital, and I can make it available to you that way as well. What I'm handing to you now is we have an opportunity, but it's only this month, to complete a grant application from Walkworks, which would, if successful, provide the funding to hire a professional firm to lay out an active transportation plan, and would have to be completed by next fall. The application isn't too bad. I'm not a grant writer, but I would put everything I could into it if it could be done. August 30th is the deadline. And it does require the supervisors giving a letter of support, and it would have to come from the municipality to apply for it. What I gave to you here is because I have a feeling you may think we haven't done much in this area for biking and walking. So what I did was, in this draft, because I had to do it in a hurry, it shows you all the documents that you've already done or have in your possession that are part of the official record for what you've been doing in regarding to better walking and biking. The other piece is that you've done a lot of action, or PennDOT has done here in the Campbelltown area. And so I gave you actions undertaken by the township and PennDOT. And when Scott's here, certainly that's been part of it because he's looked very carefully at where he can widen shoulders when you're resurfacing. So Airport Road, Grant, even Hinkle got a little more space in the shoulder. And that's indicative of a municipality who cares about the safety of all users walking and biking. And of course the other piece that I gave to you is we're kind of unique, I think, from some of the other applicants who would be competing, in that we've done education. We've done the video, thank you, South Londonderry Township Police Department and your children, Dr. Bucks, and you, I think, pushing the door back and forth. And we've also had signage up, and we've had the billboards right here. So we've done an education component as well. And then when I took the webinar, listened to the webinar the other day, I'm not sure if anybody in the township did, one of the things they said was an application will be really good if you can show that other people beside the local residents will value from the walking, active transportation, biking, blah, blah. And it dawned on me, bingo, we really hit on this one too, because we're at Crossroads. And we've got, and you can read it, I won't take up the time of folks who are here, but we have visitors, we have people coming to eat, we have people coming for various reasons, the historic, seeing some of the buildings, it goes on and on. So we do have that element that is not in the application, but was brought up at the webinar. So with all of this, I think it's worth doing, but it does mean we have to get it done by August 30th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that just what's on the agenda?
No, kind of, but not really.
Okay.
Part of it was.
Okay.
There was somebody else on public input that wanted to speak, but that said no, but then there was Springbrook Farms or something. No? Anyone else? Yes,
I
Jane.
just wanted to pass, Jane Popko, 142 Schoolhouse Road. I just wanted to pass this on to you. It's in relation to putting a bridge from Fox Road into
The park.
the park. And this is a 20-foot, and this is the approximate price. And I assume that the township could do the work of installation, and I have no idea what the length of it is, but here's for 20 foot, and here's more literature.
Okay, I'm going to hold on to this because we have a scout that has been in contact with me looking at doing an Eagle Scout project in that
Okay.
area. It's not just the cost of the bridge. We also need a engineering plan for a wetland
And,
and bog turtle,
because
and now that.
there's a guy who, I don't know where it should be because somebody owns the property.
Well, there's a section that is
Yes.
township land
Right.
there, and if we did it on township land, then there wouldn't need a permit for that. There wouldn't be a permit fee. We'd still need a permit, but there wouldn't be a permit fee. But regardless, there still has to be a wetland plan, which is, I think, Ritu gave me a price, and that was, do you remember what that was? I think $1,250, I think is what it was. So it's not
You can pass
just,
that on to the
I will
Eagle
pass it on to
Scout.
him and see if he's still interested. We haven't talked about it as a
Okay.
board yet
Well,
either.
I just walked across it, and
Yes.
it is dangerous.
He's just been in contact with,
Private, so
Yeah, but
we can.
Well-
You're trespassing.
anyways, that's for another time. We'll talk about that. Any other public input? None? Okay. So correspondence, I'm not exactly sure what Jenna wanted us to discuss with this. Did anybody talk with her about these
I
two
didn't, but
correspondence?
it's my opinion with those type of items, if they're not specifically asking, that they should be dealing with the township staff on those. One was a speed reduction on Mine Road.
Yeah, I have, do you have copies of?
We have copies of them, yeah. I just wasn't sure what exactly.
Yeah, it would be up to you, in reference to the first one for, at 980 Mine Road. I don't know that they specify any,
It says, "Dear Sirs," I'm not sure who that's, and it was emailed to Jenna.
yeah, so, they didn't really provide a section that I know of where they would like this done. Unless I don't know, PennDOT prefers that you give them some kind of a span of where you want the speed reduction. I don't know, 980 Mine Road, it said, Richard Brown, in his area, would like the speed limit reduced from 45 to 35, and better yet, to 25 if we could do that. So I generally make those requests to PennDOT, but it would be up to the board whether they want me to even,
Request that, is that why it's across our desk, I guess?
apparently, yeah.
Okay. I don't
I don't
know
think that would
that,
align very well with the,
I'm not a road expert in any way, shape, or form. I'm not even sure how we'd handle that. I feel like it's on the same,
Criteria.
well, there would have to be a traffic study and,
Well, I haven't even received any complaints about speeding out there, and crash data certainly wouldn't support.
Yeah, specifically, it says, I have teenagers who help me who travel from Colebrook to my place by bike. A large number of bicyclists use this road as regular route, including the bike races that happen in the area, and a lot of it is referencing the bicyclists as being in danger due to the speed.
Okay, so I'm gonna take this as a concern. I'm not exactly sure what we can do about it at this point if there's not the criteria that would warrant it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So-
just, I'm requesting that the speed limit on Mine Road be reduced, so that's what they're saying.
Okay. So Glenda, I'm guessing, can we just ask if you would make note, for Jenna to respond that at this point it's not warranted? Are you guys in agreement with that, Jack, Bill? I'm not really sure how
If there's
to.
not the data to support it, then
Bill, would you be willing to reach out to him?
Well, sure.
I would recommend we ask Bill he's the guy with the crash data and.
Okay,
And I'm not aware of any other issues or complaints that came through the office other than,
and this one. Okay, so let's handle it that way then,
and
that's,
for like the bike races, you guys are out there, right? I mean,
Unless it was last
Yeah,
night.
they don't close the.
they don't close
the
it, but
roads.
yeah,
But
I've
there's
seen you
plenty of
guys.
Presence of officials that I would hope that the speeds are reduced and, I think we put enough, safety measures in place. that
And
will take
those
care of
guys
things.
travel fairly fast.
Right,
You know.
yeah, that's. that's also true.
and then in regards to the next one, it has concerns about the 322-117 intersection. Again, that would be PennDOT that would
yeah.
determine what those are.
Right, that was all,
Traffic study no different than the one over here.
yeah, and that whole intersection was recently redesigned and investigated for other issues. So, yeah, I think that study just occurred not too long ago when they redid that intersection.
Okay. Do you happen to know anything about that study that you could reach out to this person to respond
Sure.
in that regards? Okay,
Yeah, their main concern is why isn't there a left turn coming from Country Square?
yeah,
With
The air-
northbound on 117, going left on 322, going west on 322. When there's one going southbound on
the other.
117 at the brewery.
the signal, I thought it was, not the,
Yeah, there's a lane
There
there.
is a turn there.
they were concerned with the light,
Right.
so.
So, yeah.
Will you respond
Yep.
to that? I'm not sure why that was on there like that, but, okay, moving on. Approval to previous meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to, before I ask for a motion for that, there is one correction on there. The streetlights on there are on there twice. One in the old business and one in the new business or something. Hang on. There's one in the old business and one under special business. It's the same thing. If you can ask Jenna just to remove one of those. Then can I have a motion to approve
So-
those minutes? A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright,
Aye. Motion to approve meeting minutes from the special meeting, which was in discussion to Prospect Road meeting on July 18th. Do I have a motion to approve those?
I did not see those, so I'm not going to.
Well,
I was
and you
present.
weren't
I
there.
wasn't there.
So that's not gonna work. So, do I have a motion to table that? And I'll give you my copy. You wanna,
I have them now.
You have it now?
I do
Okay.
not have them.
I'll make a motion to table.
okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Second.
Do I have a motion to approve bill and payroll 1419?
So,
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And a motion for bill and payroll 1519.
so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There wasn't anything specific that Jenna asked either of you in her report to talk about? Okay. Moving on then to zoning and code enforcement. Do you want to give your report, Dawn?
I had 22 zoning permits last month, 4 building permits, 4 road permits. 1 highway occupancy permit. I had 24 complaints, 4 of them on grass and weeds, 8 stormwater, 3 right-of-way, 1 illicit discharge. 4 without permit, and 2 use not permitted, 1 for junk, and 1 just miscellaneous. We have 4 hearings coming up for our zoning hearing board on the 21st. I talked about DDM the last time we were here on Bell Road. He wants to finish that up. He's getting encroach on the side yard setback. And he needed to do another stormwater plan. So while he's doing the stormwater plan, he's preparing for everything in the future that he wants to do, a pool and deck and so forth. And then I have one on Patrick Road, which is for a craft shop, basically. She's going to do classes in crafts. So she's going to the zoning hearing board for that. And then we have in the net, they want to put up temporary structure over the field that's next to Inmanet for the winter time, and it's going to exceed the height limit. So they're asking for variance for that, and then another corner fence variance, which come around quite a bit because there's 2 front yards,
Okay,
and that's on Bradford. So that'll be August 21st at 7 o'clock.
okay, thank you. Patrick?
I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Yep,
I do want to mention that yesterday, this isn't last month, but yesterday, I went on a stormwater walk with the association, the Breezewood Association, to look at their facilities and give them some recommendations for maintenance.
okay, thank you. Patrick, do you have anything?
Thank you. I don't have anything specific. I will have comments on items further on the agenda, as well as a brief executive session with respect to personnel and the status of the collective bargaining agreement.
Which we're going to have after this meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Police Chief?
In the month of July, officers reported on 261 incidents, issued 7 non-traffic citations, 52 traffic citations, mainly in conjunction with the aggressive driver enforcement wave that we got a grant for, and issued 30 traffic warnings. The only other things I want to mention are that we had National Night Out a week ago at a new venue up at the middle school, the football field. Very happy with that location and the partnership with the school district, and we hope to continue that next year as well. The other big event of the summer is this weekend, the Mount Gretna Art Show, and we just need everybody to be aware that Route 117 will be closed from Mount Wilson Road to Mount Gretna from Friday morning at 6 a.m. until Sunday evening, because they're going to put exhibitors right on the roadway. So there'll be a detour utilizing Mine Road.
Just a question about that. How do you get to, I know last year they let people through to the lake. In
Yes.
previous years, so you can still get to the lake or not?
Yeah, from the Butler Road and
Okay.
on 117, timber is open, and all the primary areas of parking are Soldier Field, because there's no parking at Phil Haven and no shuttle buses running.
Just curious.
Anything else to report?
No.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Public Works. Scott, do you have a report for us?
I have some line painting quotes coming up under new business.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Palmyra Library, I'm assuming Kendra's not here because I have a report in my hand. Palmyra Public Library met on July 16th and will meet again on August 20th. They welcomed a new board member, Tracy Petroni. They also had a June circulation for 2019 was up compared to June 2018. Library visitor statistics were down in June compared to last year. Good news, the profit on the annual book sale was $10,678, $1,000 more than last year. Thanks to all that helped and or spread the word about the book sale, Discover Books took all unsold books. The library participated in National Night Out on August 6th, and the public portion of the library's capital campaign will begin the end of August. And this was submitted by Kendra Hoffman. Okay, moving on. Campbelltown, do you have a report for us?
Yep, for the month of July, we had 50 calls, our average personnel was 7. Our average response time was 3 minutes and 55 seconds. We had 4 building fires, 1 gas leak, 16 medical assists, 2 accidents with injuries, 3 accidents with no injuries, 4 public service, 1 standby, 16 dispatched and canceled, 2 AFAs, and 2 incidents not found.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
Good.
Jack, do you have one for Lon?
I don't have the stats with me because I had left them at the firehouse on Monday night after the call, but we had our first food truck event that went very well. I don't know if any of you attended, but that was very well attended and quite successful. That will probably return. And this Sunday's breakfast.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you. And I didn't see John, I didn't miss him, did I? Okay. Palmyra Area Recs and Park Commission,
No report
no report. Did you have a meeting?
next time. No. it's
Okay.
tomorrow.
Oh, okay,
Thank you.
sorry. All right, minutes for review. We do have in here the municipal authority, PC, fire board zoning hearing. Do either of you have anything for officials' input?
I don't.
And, yeah, just one thing. I thank the police department. Actually, you mentioned National Night Out. I was there, and you guys did a nice job of, considering it's a new venue. I thought it was well attended. You guys were in multiple places, so I think people got exposure to the police department, lawn, fire apparatus. It's a great way to interact with the community. So, well done.
Okay, and I do want to mention, this is Jim Caldwell. He's with Ritu, subbing in today. Sorry, I didn't mention that earlier. All right, moving on to Resolution 16, 2019. So last month we talked about a resolution that allows an emergency response call from township employees that are also members of a volunteer fire department. So Patrick has this worked up for us.
Yeah, I
This
mean,
blank part here, did we
that
have
means-
to
well,
state?
I know, yes.
Okay.
There are, there's more than one, there's 2, volunteer fire departments that serve this municipality. So in the event that you want this to apply to both, we plug in both.
Well,
We haven't really had that discussion, so I've just left it blank. I'm not sure.
Well, my concern wasn't somebody part of another department outside of South Londonderry that worked here?
Yeah, Kyle is.
So technically, if they're in good standing in whatever department that is, did we want to allow that in there as a provision?
Well, my understanding was that they would have to maintain, they would have to be a member in good standing somewhere. But that the language would not allow them to leave for calls other than
In South Londonderry.
the ones we defined.
Okay. Well, then we could reword that to simply have also an active member in good standing of a volunteer fire department. And then somewhere along there, making sure that the response call is within the municipality of South Londonderry Township.
Well, I think we outlined that when in the, ABCD there, I think we covered that part. I mean, it's calls first due, leaving, manager.
It does. The way I set this up was for specific to volunteer sport, specific fire departments. But if we're gonna change that to just allow it to be for volunteers in good standing of any fire department, so long as the response is to an area within South Londonderry, I think we just have to reword it. I don't know if I necessarily have that.
Because we have you know, we have an employee that's not necessarily, Kyle's not a member of Campbelltown,
I'm checking right now, I believe he is.
Okay.
He's a member with us.
but I don't, you know, you give me your thoughts, but I don't intend to force them to become members of, that wasn't my intention. In other words, if someone works here and they're, you know, Kevin, Kyle, whoever, and they're a member in good standings and they want to,
And their department gets called to a fire here.
no.
No.
I'm saying, you know, if Kyle doesn't want to join, I'm not forcing them to join to respond. That was my, I don't, I mean, unless you have a different opinion, I don't care.
No, that was what I was under the, I was under the impression that so long as they're a good member at any department, they're allowed to go on a call in South Londonderry Township.
Correct. That was,
In South Londonderry Township.
Yeah.
Okay.
well,
Well, I guess,
gonna say,
yeah,
because we have, both fire companies
I guess
have
that's-
first due area that is not.
first due, yes, that's the language, sorry.
Campbelltown has Conowago, we have Conowago.
Okay.
So maybe that's, then that would be the language in there, the first due.
All right, well, let me reword, I'll probably reach out to you, so I get that specific language correct, but, so you're saying the call has to be first due area of South Londonderry, or just
My opinion is first due.
first due period, or first due being in South?
Well,
I mean, what, you cover,
What their first due is.
he's,
Yes,
I think they would still have to be members of your department if you want them to be covered by workman's comp.
Well, they have to be a member
No,
of
they wouldn't.
some fire department.
once they become under the control of the department, then the insurance kicks in.
And
Like,
also your.
we just
first
went through
due-
this over and over and over because we didn't want, you know, we have all these people that volunteer for the food truck and the this, and we didn't want 300 members because they help out, you know, 8 hours a year. And we were told numerous times in writing that as soon as they become under the direction of the fire department, then it would kick in. I'm not saying that they don't, that they can or won't or shouldn't, but
Well, wait,
if we're forcing them to become members of the fire company, we should probably have that discussion with the
remember though,
fire companies.
I'm trying to think through this because we didn't really discuss it, but another part of this is, remember, there's gonna be an MOU between the municipality and the fire department. Making sure that the fire department is, number one, properly insured, the workers' comp coverage is covering all volunteer firefighters with that company, as well as the fact that, you know, there's a couple other things in an MOU. So in order to do that, we really should be specifying, I mean, we're gonna know what departments, if we just let it blanket out there, anyone,
Right.
we're not gonna have an MOU, we potentially may not have an MOU with one of those departments.
right.
Can I say something? I know when I do a workman's comp for one of them, they ask for the roster, they ask for the actual, when it was dispatched, you know.
Right, but South Londonderry Township is required to provide funding towards the workers' comp coverage for fire departments that provide, I can't remember exactly the words in the act, but they're providing fire coverage service within South Londonderry Township.
Right.
So if you have an employee that's a volunteer member at a department that's maybe doesn't fall under that umbrella, you're not getting information because there's some other municipality that's contributing towards their workers' comp. And you may not be in the loop on that. Hence the logic behind including specific names of these departments. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to have MOUs with whatever departments these
because we want to make
folks are
sure that,
involved
number one,
in.
these people are volunteer members, number two,
Well, yeah, but the workers' comp is not gonna go back to that department while they're volunteering here.
the workers' comp, whatever fire department they're with or responding for, the workers' comp for that department is going to be covering them. Township of South Londonderry is not covering them for workers' comp.
Right.
right, but if they do a first due in this area, it's gonna be under,
For whatever fire department they're operating under,
right,
responding under.
I thought you were saying, you know, if they're a member in Myerstown, and they're here running with, responding with lawn, then it's going back to Myerstown. But it, I'm not thinking.
Well, they'd have to be a member of lawn.
But he just said it doesn't matter if you're under the direction
Yeah,
of the
we're
fire
gonna-
company.
And we would have to, I don't know about Campbelltown, but we would have to change, once you become a member and we have criteria and we'll have to address all that. Because we wouldn't require, normally with those folks, why we say a member in good standings of others, like there's many stations around the county that like if you're in good standings with one another and you're in their area, you can jump in their truck and go. But you're not required to, most companies have a minimum requirement, you gotta, 10, 20% of the trainings, you gotta make 10% of the calls. So-
Yeah, I think I need to think through that. I don't know how we'd be able, because the purpose of the MOU is to ensure that these departments are properly insuring these volunteer members. And if there's people that are responding, that are employees, that aren't members of a department that we have an MOU with, I'd have some reservations as to,
Well, there would only be 2 departments, in my opinion, that we would have the MOUs with.
well, okay, then I guess with,
But the question then lies, are we requiring them to have membership with one of those 2? If we have to, we have to, but like I said, that's something.
that's how I set this up. If we're gonna rework it to fit that, I just wanna have the opportunity to think through all of it to make sure we're not missing anything. Because the last thing I wanna do is create any type of exposure for South Londonderry Township.
Ed, are you at the opinion that yous would probably require it?
I'm thinking that way, yeah.
Okay.
And the reason being with the difference in workman's comps, and, say you have an employee that's gonna run with us and he's got workman's comp through another department and something happens, I can see the way insurance works, that getting all messed up because you weren't running here, you were running there. So, yeah, we would have him become a member. And then in the same regard, if he's getting his training somewhere else, we accept that training. So he wouldn't have to get the training necessarily through us if he was getting it through another department. And just to clarify, first due for Campbelltown would be South Londonderry Township, part of South Anvil Township, and part of Conawaga Township, Dauphin County. And it would be, I think, the same for Lawrence.
It would.
Okay, so we need to go back to the drawing board.
Not the drawing board, I think we just I have to look at that. If that's how you wanna set it up, number one, I gotta see if we can actually do it.
Well, if that's the way, if Campbelltown is gonna require it, we've never discussed it at lawn in detail that I'm aware of, so I would need to make sure, I don't wanna
Okay.
speak out of term there, because like I said, we'd have to address that on how we would handle the
I think from
qualifications.
my perspective, not being involved, but like looking after the township, I would prefer maybe members of in one of the 2 fire departments in the township. The first due thing doesn't bother me that that we're responding to our neighbors. That doesn't bother me at all. We could still have first due for the calls, right? As long as they're members of the 2 fire
Yeah, like I said,
departments.
I don't think it'll be an issue, we haven't discussed it, so
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm just saying that's my perspective, then it's like,
do we want to get a copy of this to each department and have them look at it?
I'm
Now
pretty
that
sure
it's
they were-
reworked?
I'm pretty sure that, I know we
You
were-
got one,
Yeah.
this copy. Do you know if you guys got this most recent?
I don't know.
You don't know, okay. Well, I don't want to waste Patrick's time if it doesn't need changed.
Why don't we put this for the fire board to review, that way, if we're sending it back to him, it's one time instead of multiple times.
Okay,
Make sure everybody's on the same page.
that's fine, okay, sounds good to me. Yeah, we'll send it back
Yeah.
to the fire board?
yeah.
Okay. I don't think we need a motion for that, do we? All right, so hold off, Patrick. All right.
Stand back.
All right, so now, moving on. We are on to Mount Pleasant Ventures, 06/2018. Hi.
I
My name is Josh Lever with Chrisland Engineering. There's a plan in front of you for Lindell Drive subdivision. There are a number of waivers, like I believe on the table, along with, so the main thing tonight would be to discuss the waivers. I can give you an update on the plan, we're at the plan, to discuss the waivers and really get a determination of waivers so we know that we're going to move forward here. So as an update on the plan, it's 14 lot subdivision off of Lindell Drive, off of a cul-de-sac. There's one lot addition on the western end of the property that's just going to be, that's actually 2 lot additions that'll be added to the neighboring properties. Lindell Drive enters in off of Lindell, with an enlarged cul-de-sac bulb out the end.
Sorry.
So
No,
there
I
are,
figured, I've seen this.
there are a couple waivers that we were requesting. We're hoping to get determination on tonight with the supervisors. It's a letter dated August 1st, the most recent.
So you're just so I'm clear, the only thing you're looking for tonight from this board is the decision on the requested waivers of the saldo.
And depending on how they go, we would ask for a potentially conditional approval of the plan. But that would require the waivers be approved.
So I guess maybe now's the time for me to chime in regarding the action on the waivers, if that's in the applicant's favor. In terms of an action on the plan itself, what we look at is how many design-related issues are outstanding that could impact the plan. This is the first time we've had the opportunity to review the revised stormwater management portion of the plan. Through that review, we still feel there could be some changes that may require additional, perhaps modifications by the Planning Commission and action by the Board of Supervisors. If the board is comfortable to move forward and grant conditional approval, certainly that's within your prerogatives. We'd like to be able to address some of the engineering comments and knock some of the design comments down. There's still some potential red flags in the project that we would like to get those out of the way so that we have a good, clear direction where the plan is going.
Prior to the board taking action on the plan itself.
The plan itself, that's correct. I mean, obviously, the waivers are a significant issue, and Josh needs your feedback on this evening.
So, I'm just looking at the page,
Let me see what we got.
yeah, the stormwater management section, that hasn't been reviewed at all.
We
Right.
have, we've completed our review, but there's still a fair amount of comments.
There are a couple comments remaining, and some of that was due because when we revised the stormwater, we wound up with not only the retention basin, but also a rain garden, so there were some comments related to that. And then we also submitted the flood study, which established the floodplain line on here. I believe there were a couple comments to verify that.
It's my understanding it was a very quick review process, and they really would like some more time to review the stormwater before the plan is reviewed. It was mainly the stormwater that was the concern.
Okay.
Yeah, and from the sounds of it, depending upon whether or not where the board lies on the waivers, it could potentially impact the plan significantly, which would mean there would be plan revisions
The
for
waivers
you
definitely
to
would.
review.
Sure.
Okay, so we're looking at the waivers here from August 12th, correct?
Yes.
That's the most recent, August 12th, and we're looking 1 through 5.
1 through 5.
So the first one, the recommendation from the Planning Commission was to approve, and it was a subdivision, or a submission of preliminary plan. So, do we have a motion to approve, or not to approve that waiver?
I make a motion to approve that waiver.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any questions on that from anyone? All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
So moving on to the next one, it's all major subdivisions shall have 2 points of access via public roads. The applicant is proposing a 32-foot wide single access street with an enlarged bulb. And they're looking for a waiver for that, and the planning commission denied that. Do I have a motion for that, or do we?
Recommended.
They recommended a denial, yes, I'm sorry. Do either of you have questions, comments, or do we have a motion?
I'm just trying to
Or any
remember, how many
discussion?
lots was this originally and it was knocked down to?
Originally, we had more on here.
Right.
And I don't remember the original number, but some of it was due to the definition of lot area, where lot area in the township, you have to subtract the easements and all that stuff out. So that required the lots to become bigger.
I
So
believe
we're
it was
down to
26.
26.
Yeah, and we're down to
14.
14.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, if I may, these next three waivers, while they're technical because they deal with cul-de-sac length, points of entry, et cetera, or more, I would put these in a policy arena for the board's consideration. So if this, and this is an odd tract, I would classify this as an infill project, and it's basically developed around the tract. The ability for the applicant to develop this tract and meet your standards to a T, that's a pretty high bar. Not to say they can't be done, and theoretically economics don't come into play, but the reality is that the viability of the project, they come into play. And it really comes to a policy whether for this type of a project, what I would classify as an infill versus a piece of raw land that could be designed to meet your ordinance requirements, but someone chose not to for whatever reason, that they become more of a policy. Does the township want to support or move forward with an infill type project, recognizing that some waivers of your ordinance may be required to do that, or these are the requirements of ordinance and we believe these are in there for a reason and they need to be met. Does that make sense? These are, I would not view this as, okay, this is the township's policy, so the next 10 plans come in with the same waivers, when in fact that they could design the project to meet the requirements of your ordinance. So I just wanted to add that to help in your deliberation.
Okay, thank you.
The only addition I'll make to that is the first waiver is a fairly common preliminary final site waiver. The next, as I'm understanding the review letter, you got 2 points of access, you got another one with respect to cul-de-sac streets, another one with respect to setbacks, and finally, well, the stormwater may not completely fall under that, but those three, I think you could do it one of either two ways to make it clear this evening that, one, they're not acting on the plan itself, they're looking at these specific waivers. You could either consider just giving the applicant a consensus that you're inclined to agree to those three waivers, subject upon whatever the final plan that comes before you shows, or if you want to definitively waive those three requirements this evening, at least make them specific to what, meaning the setback. You're not just going to waive the setback, you're going to waive the setback so long as they're conditional upon it being the same as depicted on the plan that's in front of you. Either one of those two, I think, would be your only potential decisions this evening. I would actually err on the side of caution and go with the more of a consensus, giving them an idea as to whether or not you're inclined to waive them pending receipt of the actual final. Once you do whatever revisions to the stormwater comments and hearing from the board this evening, coming back with that final plan, when you make those formal definitive waivers in a motion, that it's shown in front of you on the final plan and it's clear as to what you're waiving. That's how I would suggest you consider doing it, but you can do it I think I'd be okay with the other way as well. If there's a way to definitively state what those requirements are on the plan you anticipate seeing at the final level. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. So, back to, do we have discussion on what we want to do then? Questions or comments?
This has been in front of the planning commission multiple times to get to, I think, this point.
I personally have no issue with the single point of access. It's access from a road that forever has had a single point access. There's no one that's going to buy these lots that's not gonna realize when they drive in there that it's a single point of access.
Do you have anything on that?
Question from the audience.
Yes, who's speaking? Pat?
As you're well aware, over the last couple of years, we've discussed the dilemma that we have at Lawn Road and 322 because of the increased traffic and the difficulties of being able to especially turn left. And even with 14 new housing units, which may have 2 vehicles each, may not, that's going to increase that. Also, when you think about where Lindale comes out on Lawn Road, it's right at the driveway into the park. And there's a great deal of pedestrian and bicycle kids traffic there. And that being challenging to get more people through that next intersection after they left Lindale Road. The other thing that goes through my mind, and maybe this is really silly, but the developer knew what that land was like and knew that you required 2 access for development, and that it may require him having to do that, they're having to do that as well. And there is a means by which they could provide 2 ways to go egress in and out. So if you choose to allow this to occur, those of us who live on Lawn Road or on the part of Stone Knoll where we come out into Lawn Road because we're going left in particular, it is going to be a hardship. And it's going to create more safety and risk. I'm 76. It's not very easy to keep my reaction time good to turn left from Lawn Road onto 322 many times a day. And so this development adds to the issue. Thank you.
Is that, yep.
Since you're taking some points from the audience, I didn't.
Will you state your name and address, please,
Curtis
so Glenda
Martin,
can...
Chestnut Hill Road. I didn't come with any interest in this, but I am on the County Ag Land Preservation Board, and the engineer's point of viewing it as infill, I think, is very important, and we want to preserve farmland in Lebanon County. This is not farmland to preserve. The most efficient infill use, I would strongly encourage the supervisors to look at it as being the most efficient use of that space, that infill, because it's a good place for development. Her concerns are legitimate about the road, but that's going to be an ongoing safety issue regardless whether there's 14 houses are there or not. And I would strongly encourage you to make the accommodations to get that track developed efficiently.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Jane?
Jane Popko. Well, I was at the Planning Commission meetings, and it seemed like they were requesting that there be 2 ways to access that. And it just seemed overwhelming that there should be 2 access points, and that should be considered. And I think the plan should be redone to have 2 access points, if you can have 2 access points, for the reason of traffic and just for for safety of the people in that development.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
The pause of Stopping Church Road. We examined this plan at length, and we found that the developer was trying to get as much as he can on a piece of ground like this. And setback from the wetlands was a major consideration because when people build a house and their backyard is being encroached by wetlands, then they have no way to make improvements on the backyard. For instance, they want a swimming pool, they can't put it in because the wetlands prevent that. The other thing is, and I think we should look back historically, Brownstone did a lot of work in Stone Knoll, and provided an access point, there is a 50-foot opening on Stone Knoll that accesses that development. And we brought it to the attention of this developer, and he said, to the effect, it's just not practical to put a road from his development that he's creating into Stone Knoll. And the practicality may have to do with the cost associated with it because it crosses the stream in the wetlands.
And speaking to certain people about this, they said wetlands can be broached and they can have stream crossings there if they pay for those improvements. So there can be two access points to this development. But the developer allowed, he wants to have a cul-de-sac accessing another cul-de-sac. And I think it really requires more work on their part, I think, to make better use of this land and safety of the occupants here. And also, there are no sidewalks that are being asked for in this development. And I think that's a big problem for the circulation plan, because we actually need access from that development to the recreation area, which is right across Long Road. And I don't think he's given us any improvements for sidewalks or any type of pathway going from this development to the recreation area crossing Long Road. If you look at the plan, I don't think there's any improvements there other than maybe curbs along certain lengths of the property that he owns.
Okay.
So that's pretty much what I feel that should be addressed before any consideration is given to this plan.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. My issue is I don't think strapping the township with the maintenance of a bridge for in perpetuity is a smart move, particularly over a wetland area. And I'm also concerned with, I understand the sidewalks, but we have at least 2 other properties before you, is it 3 or 2 before you get to the road? It cuts off here, and I didn't pull it up on my phone.
There are more than that. There are 2, there's an alley, and I think there's another 2 possibly.
Okay, so they don't currently have sidewalks. I have a hard time personally, I'm speaking just as one supervisor, enforcing people to put sidewalks on their private property.
The ordinance says if it's adjacent to, they have to connect. So if there's properties in between, it would not be required
To connect to the park.
Right.
So there's properties in between, right? You'd have to force those properties in between to put sidewalks on somehow?
We can't.
Right, you can't do that.
Okay, so you can't do that. So we have a sidewalk then in this development that can't go
Right.
over. Can you force people on 322 to put sidewalks down?
If you make an ordinance to force them to
The
put
municipality
sidewalks
can
in.
adopt an ordinance to do so.
If we,
So we could adopt an ordinance to put sidewalks in this section here on these homes. I'm not of the mindset to do that personally. So that's why this plan, I don't have a problem with with not having 2 accesses here, because I think the other access is unrealistic.
Are you doing a traffic study?
No, that meets the thresholds.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Didn't meet the thresholds of the ordinance for traffic study for 14.
Do you have any comments on the 2 access points? Was it?
no. I mean, no. I think, the development is significantly smaller than when we
First started?
first started. I mean, I would have a problem if it was the initial plan, but it's significantly smaller.
So the other part, besides the 2 access points, the cul-de-sac, we just stated that that's,
They're desirable.
happy with that?
That's what sells the soonest. I mean, they're desirable lots.
Josh,
Yeah, I mean, that's why I live where I live.
where's the
To be
1100
honest.
feet measured from?
I think it's probably center of the road.
So the other modification, so Patrick, at this point, since the 3 of us, it sounds that we're okay with not 2 access points and a cul-de-sac being okay, where do we need to go? Make a motion to,
If you're comfortable definitively making that motion to waive those to 4.06N and 4.07C specific to only 1 point of access pursuant to the 30-foot wide single access street within a large 58-foot bulb, as well as the cul-de-sac being proposed as 1,116.5 foot long to a bulb center, 32 foot wide, single access street with a large 58 foot bulb. If you're comfortable with that, you can waive those two this evening. It's up to you. I mean, like I said, I always tend to err on the side of caution. Tonight, you don't have the final plan for your decision, and typically waivers go along with the final plan. So if you wanted to give, I think it sounded like you hit a lot of roadblocks at the planning commission, and then you
Yes.
wanted to come to the board to see what the board felt. So he's, in essence, I don't know if it matters to him. He just, I think, wants to know what the likely decision from the board of supervisors is going to be on the waivers.
I'd be more comfortable forming a general consensus based on the fact that, you know, if you have stormwater issues and stuff to address, and plans can change somewhat drastically.
And I don't necessarily see them changing drastically. I mean, I guess there's always the potential for that to happen. I don't necessarily see that happening, but
I
but yeah.
agree with, go ahead.
I mean, I would think Josh is looking for a new way on this one. We're generally favorable on these. If there's one of these, he would have to do some additional design work to address one if you gave him some direction that we're just not comfortable with a specific request.
So it sounds like I think you've gotten some general direction from the two access point and the cul-de-sac waivers, at least, unless I'm speaking out of turn. That's what I'm gathering from the discussion I'm hearing from the board.
Correct.
Yep. So what else do you, I guess,
There's two other waivers, I think, from that.
4 and 5,
Yeah, 4 and 5.
setbacks and,
So oh, you're on 4?
yes.
Let's see this letter that describes the waiver, how we had it presented a little bit more. We laid out the existing setbacks were essentially 100 feet from the 100-year water surface, and then we proposed basically mimicking those sections with an alternative setback criteria.
So, in order to talk about that, I would need to jump ahead, because one of them you're asking to take all of the rear water to the floodplain, and
And I can explain that a little bit here.
I understand what you wanna do, but I don't think with the stormwater problems that we already have downstream, that we can allow any of that water.
And that's all calculated in those peak flow calculations that we provide. It's essentially the rear, I believe, of these houses here,
Yeah.
that would have the walkouts that would discharge out through. So we calculated undetained area going through to the floodplain. So we add that undetained area to our basin discharge to come up with our total peak rate for our post-development conditions. And that total peak rate has to be reduced less than pre-development per the ordinance. So that is accounted for in our total post-development flow, even though those rears do go to the stream.
Yeah, which lots are those again? Those are the walkout
It would be the
lots.
walkout, so it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It'd be the rears of these, because it'd be a matter of getting those downspouts from the rears of the house at that lower elevation to the street somehow, or to that basin.
Why couldn't you do infiltration pits in the rear?
Can you do that in a wetland?
Well, they wouldn't be in the wetlands. It would
We-
have to be in the wetlands.
We could take a look at that. We'd have to do some probes and some soil testing out there to see, we start to get close to the stream in those areas. So typically we try and, in general, try and limit.
It'd be pretty
the
small, I
infiltration.
mean, they're only taking,
It'd be the
in
roots.
theory, half the structure.
Right.
I mean, typically those infiltration pits are fairly shallow.
A couple hundred cubic feet.
I know that a lot of this is controversial, but I can tell you that any of the water that's discharging the back, no one downstream is gonna be happy with. I think I personally would like to see that, addressed any way possible.
Okay.
I think that might be part of their concern, that further stormwater reviews. That they didn't have enough time to really do this. They wanted to look at that more in depth. I guess you just did the floodplain study,
Yeah.
which changed everything quite a bit.
We did the floodplain study, which adjusted the floodplain a little bit. So we can take a look at the back area if that's a concern of the supervisors for this rear we can take a look at maybe putting a small trench in the rear to address that. It'd be contingent on making sure the soils are adequate to do that. We don't want to put a trench that's 3 feet deep and get groundwater 2 feet. But we can look at that. One of the comments was, since we added the rain garden, which is over in this side on that lot addition, we have to do more soil testing out there, so we could take a look at those. if you
Okay.
prefer.
I would disagree with you on the sidewalks. You know, when we granted the long road waiver, I was adamant that those sidewalks are never going to connect anywhere. I think it's realistic to believe that these sidewalks are probably going to, some way, somehow, someday, you know, be connected with all of the developments around it.
Is there a waiver with respect to sidewalks?
We are not requesting a waiver. There was one initially, but based on the density calculation, it appeared that the township, or the township requirements for density and the requirements for sidewalks, this was just shy of that threshold for our calculation. I think it was between 1 and 3, a density of 1 dwelling unit per 1 to 3 acres required sidewalks. If you're under, I believe that 1 dwelling unit per acre, it dropped it to no sidewalks required there. And we calculated, I mean, it came out to just shy. Once you take the right of way and some of that out, just over 14 acres, and we have 14 lots, so it put us just shy of that threshold. So it didn't appear, based on that section, that the
So based
waiver
on
was
that, you
required.
actually do not need sidewalks
Correct.
per that,
Correct.
which is why they're not on here.
That's not on it.
Except you do need these other waivers.
But we need these other waivers.
Josh, do you have designated areas for snow placement in the cul-de-sac?
Yes.
There's one here at the end.
Yeah, we have one out at the end. Yeah, directly out the back.
It'll be right behind the fire hydrant, Scott.
Yeah.
I mean,
Will not.
I get it's just short. Again, I kind of agree with Jack on this one. And again, you do need the other waivers.
That would have to be a discussion with the client. I don't know if he wants to chime in. I think some of the thought there was his hesitancy to do it was, since we do have bigger lots.
Here, let's put it this way. I'm a no on the other stuff
Okay.
without the sidewalks.
Or would you like sidewalks, I guess is my next question.
Well, not, yeah.
How about that?
Sidewalks if they're not required.
Can't require.
Oh, I can't require it. I'm just saying I'm a no. Well, can I be a no unless that's met?
Yeah, so right
Where
now,
am I at?
I think we've got one more requested, waiver being requested that we haven't really discussed now is the setbacks,
All right.
right? Do you want to take the board through that one?
Sure. This next waiver is section 4.25, and that is setbacks of structures from an earth disturbance from certain features. So we look at wetlands, floodplains, ponds, lakes, and streams, and then detention basin. Section A is for wetlands. It's 100 feet for structure, and then 25 feet for all earth disturbance. We would propose 50 feet to wetlands and 25 feet for all earth disturbance. That still provides a riparian buffer there. And actually, I think we have much greater. You can see here where the 25-foot buffer would be, and we're pretty far away from there. So we have one little wetland there, one there. The other is from the floodplains would be 100 feet from primary residence, 25 feet for all other structures, and we provide or request basically no horizontal setback. However, any structure within 50 feet of the floodplain would be at least 2 feet higher with its lowest finished floor. So essentially any of these would have their lowest finished floor 2 feet above what that floodplain elevation would be. The third is ponds, lakes, and streams. Measured from top of bank, that'd be 100 feet for primary residential structures, 25 feet Further?
The walkout basement.
Yep.
This was a discussion at the planning commission.
Mhm.
Like, technically, a basement is not a finished floor.
And we wrote it, we will, if they would be finished, the basements, they would be 2 feet above.
Right. I mean, I have no concern about the height compensating for the distance at all. But for the walkouts, it needs to be clear that,
Okay.
that they're not in the height. That's, I mean, you were saying at the planning commission that those would not be in the floodplain. That's kind of what I've wanted.
They were gonna be 2 feet above the floodplain, is what I understood.
I mean,
Well, Bill, you're basically asking for a wording clarification instead of the lowest finished floor to be the basement floor elevation.
Well, I think for the walkouts in particular, because, I don't know,
Well, if all of these, I mean, none of these should have the basement
under the,
elevation under the floodplain, because even though they're not walking out, the water's not gonna be in. If they have basement
Right.
floor elevations below floodplain, we all know what's gonna happen, right?
right,
They're gonna be sump pump 24/7, and they're not gonna be happy about that. I don't really have a concern with the setbacks, as long as we clarify that the basement floor elevation,
We typically look at a minimum of 2 feet for that.
yeah.
Really no less. I mean, I'm just looking quickly here over on the, what I'll call the east side of the project. We have considerable vertical separation of the proposed basement floors. As we work west, we start encroaching. We get to this last home that backs up to the stream, it's within a foot or so. So that one certainly needs to be
yeah,
brought
so
up.
that last house,
And
we
again,
can
that's
raise a
gonna,
foot.
we would finalize that once we finish our review of the flood study, et cetera, that was done, and just make sure we're in accordance with everything.
So the only other thing that concerns me with that is, you know, I said, when I talked about the cul-de-sac, like, no one that buys a lot in there isn't gonna realize when they drive in. But when these houses are sold, these are the things that quite often are not relayed to the homeowner. Is it appropriate, or can we plan note, how can we ensure that that is getting passed on to the potential future homeowner, that, hey, the township ordinance was this, but in order to make the development best fit, they allowed us to do this.
But we can
These are the
put a
risks
note on the cover
associated.
sheet, and one of the comments remaining is prior to.
The only thing that
recording.
concerns me with that is no one who's buying this lot is
Well,
looking
we
at
have
this
to, we
plan.
provide draft deeds for all the lots.
And no one
before
looks
they're
at it,
recorded.
don't.
No one will know that they can't put a pool back here.
There would be a declaration you could record against the property, depending upon what the restrictions are.
I mean, I'm all about buyer beware, but I also, as you well know, work in this industry and know that oftentimes that's what happens. And then they come in and they're upset with us, and, you know, then we send them back, and, you know, I think it would be in our good deed to our potential future residents that, like, you know, this is how we got to where we
Yeah.
are.
Whatever you guys would like to see to notify those buyers or provide that notification to them, I mean, whether it's plan wise, whether it's a separate document, I'm sure we can do that.
That's just my thoughts.
No, I agree. Because we all know how we're dealing with Carriage Park and
Yeah,
not
none of that
knowing what they
information
can.
got conveyed, and it's a nightmare for us.
Would it be acceptable to the board maybe if our office worked with Patrick to come up with some, I mean, from an engineering standpoint, we can provide the input if your client's willing. And I work with somebody that says 7 times 7 ways. You can't get the word out. You know, they do a title search, it says subject to restrictions listed in this document, where we actually get
Right.
the document and read it and understand it, et cetera.
I mean, honestly, at some point, I get what you're saying, Jack, and I think we can do that, but at some point, I don't know. I bought my house, I looked where the easements were, because I wanted to put a pool in. My
Yeah.
neighbors can't, because they didn't look. I mean, I don't,
I'm
I
not
get
so-
it.
I'm not so concerned about, you know, future, like, if you bought it, and, you know, you contracted with the builder, and this are the plans, that's what you bought, that's what you got. To do something in the future, pool addition, that's their own problem. Like, I'm not so worried about that as I am, we have a massive, you know, hurricane, we have a tropical storm where, you know, we have massive flooding and then they come in here and you left them do this.
My backyard was underwater.
My backyard was underwater, you left them do this.
I got it.
That's my concern, that we have a single, simple, one-page document. I understand how we got from A to B, and that's just my opinion.
Sure.
Do we have any sort of direction given to you then?
I think from my understanding of the conversation, the waiver request for 4.067 and 4.07C, generally at this point, it seems like the consensus that conditional upon a couple other things that they're in favor of. The waivers from 3.04A3 and 314B8 with respect to the discharge to the floodplain, generally the board is not okay with. And then the setbacks, potentially, maybe with the appropriate documentation for notification, with the understanding that the board's inclined to be looking for sidewalks on the plan, if when you go back to your client to see if that's something potentially possible.
Okay.
That's my,
Take on our discussion, that was a
I
pretty
tried
I
to
good.
think
summarize
that
it the best I could.
Really good.
I would concur.
Jack, does that sound accurate to you?
That gives us- that also gives us the direction we need to work with.
With each other and get it done. Yes, Jane?
And how many of the properties back up against the floodplain?
6.
Six. And
Six.
that
Yes.
situation's only gonna get worse. I mean, it's guaranteed if it's, if it's floodplain, it's gonna get worse. So why would you,
They're not in, so they're not in the
floodplain.
floodplain for one. And two, they're asking, it's his argument that it's not going to increase, but they're asking to discharge, which they probably could rightfully do so, and we've said no. Nothing is going to change whether that house is 100 feet away or 50 feet away.
It's still not in the floodplain.
Still not in the floodplain, the water's still going the same place.
people don't have to buy flood insurance?
No, because they don't have, their structure will not be.
Buyer
Well, I don't-
beware.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I made that exact comment moments ago.
All right, anything else from us?
I think that'll get us going.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
No, very good.
They didn't vote on it.
I think that this agreement on planning commission,
The other is general.
it puts me in an interesting position.
Okay,
Where are we at?
all right.
Oh, yeah, Lindell Drive.
Okay, if we can just have it quiet so we can move on here. We'll move on to the next one, which is Lindell Drive Sewer Plant Planning Module Approval.
We had some hurdles to overcome with regard to that, and I've spoken with Josh.
Uh-oh, he must have forgot.
Yeah, so I spoke with him over the telephone today, so we have some work to do on that, so.
I think that's why you walked out.
Table it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Do I have a motion to table that for now?
Motion to table.
Second? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moving on to the next thing then. In the Net Dome, land development waiver request. Randy, are you speaking on that tonight?
I am.
Okay. Yes, please.
Thank you, and welcome. Thanks for having us tonight. Randy Wright, Hanover Engineering. Chad Weaver is also with me tonight to talk about what we have come to describe as the inflatable dome in the net. And I will clarify, we are on the in the net property, the 10-acre property on the corner of Airport and Brant. I see, Faith, you have
Yep.
an exhibit there, and I had the same thing here if the board needs to
Yep.
get it a little closer. The project in general, if I could describe the existing condition, there's an existing artificial turf field on the north side of the indoor arena already. That lies between the arena and Airport Road. The simple project is to cover that field temporarily 4 months out of the year with an inflatable dome, literally inflated with air, concrete footers on the floor, in the ground that the dome is strapped to. Hot air fills it, literally. And then when you're done, you want to open it up again, you kind of pull the plug, let the air come out, and take the dome away. It is connected to the ground by the straps. Your township staff has determined, and we keep calling it a temporary structure because it can be taken up and down, but your zoning ordinance, as with most zoning ordinances, do not differentiate between permanent structures and temporary structures. So your staff with a definite, I'm sorry, if you have a question, please stop me.
Why would you take it down? I'm just curious. I mean, I've had kids that have played in these things all year round. They're very comfortable in the summer to play in. Just
Well,
curious.
if you air condition it, it's also very costly.
Yeah, I got it.
It's not cost effective to keep it up in the summertime
yeah.
because of the cooling costs in the dome. The air that you're putting in the wintertime is warm enough to keep it inflated.
Right.
But it is advantageous, according to Chad, to get it down as soon as
Yeah.
possible.
I've just seen a lot of other places that have them up all the time. So.
Yes. This would be temporary.
Permanent structure versus
Oh, yes.
temporary
yes.
structure.
Your staff has determined that we have to treat it like a permanent structure, which means building permit, zoning permit, most importantly, land development plan. We understand and fully recognize the fact that the dome has some stormwater management, aspects that need to be tackled. And we fully expect to take care of those with a stormwater management plan. That can be separate from a land development plan. So tonight, let me just check my notes here quick. Tonight we're here before you to ask you to consider a waiver of the land development plan requirement. And there's a few, I think, unique, and everyone's got the narrative too, but I just want to highlight some of those. A few pretty unique conditions that we think that are in place on this property. First of all, the use of the structure is already in place. Think about that. Most people with a land development plan build a building and put a new use in it. On this particular property, we have the use already in place. They're playing soccer on the field already. All we want to do is cover the use that's being used out there right now. As I mentioned, the dome will be up for approximately 4 months and not year-round. Also, the in-the-net property, the 10 acres at that corner, did already go through land development process back in the day. I want to say the early 90s? No, early 2000s. So the parking's there. There's a stormwater management basin already there for the existing facilities. Improvements to Airport Road and Brant Road have been done. Right-of-ways have been widened. All those things that go with land development plans have already been taking place because of that previous land development plan. Even the parking, I think there's approximately 200 parking spaces on the site right now, again, already serving the existing turf field that we're going to cover, as well as the existing structure. So that is a quick overview. I think there is some, like I said, unique conditions and maybe some justification for the board to consider waiving the requirement for a land development plan. And I'll stop there if there's any questions.
Okay. Do either of you have?
I have a question for township staff.
Okay, go for it.
What do you think? I mean, the building, just kind of curious.
I think our main concern is stormwater, with that. I mean, you are gonna have to put footers in, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
It's subject to, without the waiver, it's subject to land development.
All right.
Yeah.
Clearly.
So we did a land development plan
And we need something in writing that determines when it goes up and when it comes down. Otherwise, it's no longer temporary. I can see it going up and never coming back down.
Is that an issue?
So,
We've already agreed to that.
yeah, I think it should be.
The only, did I understand the zoning officer's report? Are you going before the zoning hearing board in the not too distant future?
Yes,
the height.
Due to the height
For
requirement.
height, yeah.
Part of that process is the neighbor, I don't know what the neighboring properties are like But if there's a big structure going up, they're gonna get notice of the zoning hearing board hearing. And depending upon what the show, who shows up to that hearing.
They are the neighboring properties.
Okay, but what I'm saying is it's a
Well,
pretty significant
How
structure.
tall is the, how,
It's the same height.
is
What
that
I'm-
the same height?
Yeah, but what I'm,
Within a couple feet.
what I'm trying to get at is the land development process also allows the public and necessarily the neighbors to show up and find out what's going on and provide any comment. So you might get the board might have a better feel as to whether or not this is gonna, I mean, it's a big dome. I've seen them before. So maybe it might be better to wait to see what the zoning hearing board shows. If all the neighboring property owners are you, then maybe this isn't, aside from the stormwater and, getting some conditions associated with any potential waiver, that wouldn't be an issue. But if there's a significant showing at the zoning hearing board that there may be a significant concern from the certain neighboring property owners, that might come into consideration.
I mean, they just were recently at the zoning hearing board for the property, kind of next door.
Right next door.
And one person showed up.
Okay.
So,
Understand that
I would expect
the opposite
it to
side
be
of Brant Road is all commercial, and the opposite side of Airport is an existing church. On this property.
So I guess my question is, in land development in the process, if there's a zoning issue, that has to be addressed, but where in land development does a neighbor get,
When the board reviews a land development plan, like tonight, with the subdivision plan that was before this board, there were comments from the public, and they weren't even necessarily neighbors. I mean, it's a public meeting, so people can show
yeah,
up.
I guess but it doesn't affect the process.
It could, if you were requesting waivers of, say there was a significant buffer required for this structure in this land development plan, and you were requesting a waiver, and the neighbors across the street were saying, you know what, no, we want that buffer.
And that's
something-
what I was getting at. I think we've looked at that and we meet all the setbacks and the
Okay.
buffers. So,
Thank you. It's just because of the size and
and there's
nothing
currently a structure
temporary.
on there the same height beside it.
The main concern is stormwater. That definitely needs to be done. And addressing when it's coming up and when it's coming down, making sure we have a set timetable for that to ensure that we can enforce that it actually does come back down.
When we look at these types of questions, we look at what is the information that we get from a land development. So we typically look at sewage disposal, we look at access, we look at parking, and all of those are all issues that are addressed during a typical land development plan. In this case, as Randy stated, the use is there. Really, the missing component here is the stormwater management aspect of it.
And we fully acknowledge that. But the interesting part of that is the artificial turf field allows all the water to drain through it, and it drains away. And we're not convinced that was necessarily part of the stormwater management plan. So we might have an opportunity to kind of make a little correction to something that was done in the past, but.
And in looking at this, I mean, we would echo Dawn's concerns that if it's in fact temporary and the board saw fit to grant this waiver, to set a recommendation would be to include a not before and down, not up before a certain date and removed by a certain date, so that it's clear when that would be.
Did you ever look at the sidewalk
Yeah, we can always.
part
Yes, that's deferred.
deferred? Do any of you have questions?
Request seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, I mean, it seems reasonable to me, as long as the stormwater management issue is addressed.
Absolutely, and if you entertain the waiver, or certainly make that a condition, that for sure a stormwater management plan will be prepared.
And the letter?
And, yeah, I do like the,
So do I have a motion then for that?
Just 1 second before you go.
Oh,
So
yeah.
how, just because we grant the waiver for the land development, obviously they agree, we all acknowledge the stormwater.
For something like this, you're talking about conditions of your waiver of land development would be subject to the applicant agreeing to the time period, start and finish date as to be determined by the township, compliance with the zoning ordinance requirements unless otherwise granted relief within zoning hearing board, compliance with the stormwater management ordinance, compliance with the applicable building codes. I mean, you want them to, you're putting a structure up, you gotta
Well,
comply.
We are getting a
But
building.
yeah, they're not asking for anything
Well, you want to make it clear
But
that
make
this
it
is
clear that-
simply land develop, all other potential ordinances and requirements they have to comply with, this is strictly the land development review process that they're getting a waiver from, subject to those conditions.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any questions in addition to that? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, sure. All right, let me flip over my page here.
All right.
Palmyra Grace. Who is here for that?
I'm gonna represent Palmyra Grace, Chad Weaver.
Okay,
I made copies.
I think I have it here somewhere.
It's easier.
You may have like something different.
Okay.
Just a little background, we had donations for planning on building a pavilion to the northwest corner of our property. We submitted a zoning application, a building permit application. I believe we've gotten approval on the codes portion of it. There's been a discussion or a question,
The building permit.
the building permit, but there's a question regarding the zoning in that if you look at the 11 by 17, the question was, you can see a highlighted section. Basically, it refers to, if you look where it talks about notes, the bottom of that paragraph says the proposed building additions will not be required by any additional parking requirements and/or any upgrade of the existing sewage disposal system. And it goes on to say the building permit for the future building, number 4, may be issued after plan recording with the following conditions. And it goes on to say the 2 conditions, the church purchases the required EDUs and connects to the public sewer system. And the second was the church constructs the future proposed parking lots prior to the issuance of the occupancy permit. We were advised that we need to modify, change those notes on the recorded plan based on the fact that if you look at the Google map or the image, I guess the discussion or disagreement comes in what was actually built versus what was actually specified. And so our explanation, our idea is that we haven't, let me get my numbers straight. We have, yeah, it comes around that building 4, in our opinion, the notes were put on there for building 4 because if we built building addition 4, which would be a dedicated sanctuary, it would increase our occupancy significantly, which would mean we'd have to put the parking in out front, which would then displace our existing septic system. And so that's why the note referred to hooking up to sanitary sewer and putting the parking in. Our disagreement is that the building that we have there now is currently a multi-purpose room, which is taking place of addition, I believe, 1 and 2 on.
This little 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. And so.
Well, what's the church, what's this then?
Yeah, and that's not true. It would be this addition here, which I can't read upside down.
I think that's just 1.
Yeah. So
is 3 the existing church
yes,
and this,
these 2 are currently there. Basically, this
and this is supposed
building
to be
addition
2.
1, because we did it kind of backwards, we actually built, was supposed to be our sanctuary addition. We then decided to build a multi-purpose room, which is kind of in handling our current sanctuary, and it's like a basketball / volleyball. So our thinking is, although, I mean, we can amend the existing recorded drawing, but it really, we don't know what to change because we haven't done building 4 yet. So we haven't done a dedicated sanctuary, and at this time we don't plan on doing that. But I guess our question is, well, we don't need to change it because we actually haven't gone that far yet. And if we change it, we don't know what we're supposed to change it to. So we're looking for potentially a clarification maybe, or if someone has an idea what we should be changing it to. Our disagreement is we haven't done building 4, so that note doesn't come into play.
So are you saying that, did I hear correctly in the beginning that your septic is in where this parking lot is?
The drain field is, the drain field is, yeah.
Oh, I thought I heard, did I not hear septic of some sort?
Drain field's part of the
Is the same
septic
thing?
system.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
don't confuse me, I'm not a builder. Okay.
I look at it as the size of what they built was more like the size of building 4, not building 1. And that's how I looked at it. And I don't know really why building 4 triggers the sewer and the parking. So I wanted it to be addressed.
And again, like I said, the reason in our opinion why that note was added was because if we had a dedicated sanctuary, that's gonna take our numbers from, say, 200, 300 to 500. So obviously you'd need more parking. The last time, when we built the multi-purpose room, the township said, hey, listen, your numbers are still within that number of meeting the current parking. So you're building a much bigger building, it still falls within the coverage. Your attention stays the same because you're still within that parking allotment. So it's just the building's larger, obviously, because it's a basketball gym / volleyball. So that's I guess the thing is, because in a sense, it almost seems like we're mixing coverage versus use. And so, although the building size is larger depicted, it's not the same use. It's not a dedicated sanctuary, which would trigger parking, and if you put the parking, obviously you're gonna have to displace the drain field.
I get what you're saying, but uses change all the time, right? I mean, the original, for example, in the net was supposed to be light industrial, but it's not.
No, I mean, that was designed as a indoor soccer facility.
Oh, so not in the net,
The park.
The park,
Correct.
sorry. My apologies, but I don't know, I guess not having been involved in the original of this.
The certificate of
Interesting.
occupancy,
Yeah.
it does state it as a multi-purpose addition, but it does, for the building code, it has it as an 8.3, where your sanctuary is an 8.2.
So this is actually can hold a bigger size than what your sanctuary can of number of people.
So when we looked at this, we saw really two issues that are kind of on the table. One is the note on the recorded plan, which has the effect of law, basically. And for whatever reason, at the time the plan was done, there was an agreement between the municipality and the applicant that certain triggers would require them to hook up to public sewer. So the first question is, that needs to be answered. Is the septic system that's on the site now, is it adequate for the uses that are occurring on the property? So to do that, it would be a matter of their engineer and/or the county SEO coming out and determining what the actual sewage flows are per DEP's requirements, and what the system is that's in the ground. Is it adequate for that? So is it sized adequately for the peak flow coming out of the facility? So that's the first thing, and that's a relatively simple exercise. Two, and so it's sized correctly, but is it functioning correctly? So the system is how many years old?
About 38, 37.
So I mean, typical septic system, 20, 30, 40 years. So because it's a church and infrequent use, it's probably fine. But, you know, look, is it carrying a high water level? Some other signs of potential issues. And then second would be the parking analysis. Okay, based on all the things that are occurring in the building, do we have enough parking spaces? If we answer those two questions, then it's a matter of figuring out, all right, how do we work around those notes on the plans that say when certain things occur that we hook up to the public sewer, and whether or not that's the desire of the board for that to pull that trigger.
Okay, so my opinion on that is, we're looking to do a pavilion, is our request. That information that he's requiring should have been done for us to pull a permit on our last edition. So they would have had to verify sewer, or, you know, the condition of the septic system. We're not asking to increase use, change use, we're adding an accessory pavilion. So I guess my question would be, why would we go back and look at occupancy if that was addressed with the last edition? I guess our opinion is, we're not doing building 4, we're not asking to. And so that's what the note seems to pertain to. So we're saying, why go through the extra hoops if we haven't or don't intend to build number 4?
Well, and again, as Dawn said, the purpose is to bring this before the board tonight to get their direction. I'm simply saying one way to address those couple of plan notes is to do that sewage analysis and do the parking analysis as one way to address whether or not you meet that threshold that those requirements would kick in.
Where are you planning to put the pavilion?
It would be, that's easier on this drawing. As you can see, we have 24 acres, so it would be back in, somewhere back in here.
And we don't disagree that the pavilion is not the trigger here.
No, I was just curious as to where they were putting it.
It's sort of
I guess the issue at hand that we feel is the decision needs to be, where does building 4, I mean, if we're not looking at building addition 4, or we haven't built building addition 4, those notes still stand. We're not asking to have them removed or changed because we're not looking to do building 4. I guess I would look on the behalf of the church for us to go through that extra legwork when that should have been addressed or was addressed when we did the actual last addition.
Yes.
Curtis Martin, Chestnut Hill Road. I was here in '02 when I was heavily involved in that plan when it was designed, and the traffic, the parking study is on the right side there of the plan, which is still applies to the occupancy of the building. We have not increased it over that, I think it's 300.
maintained about 60 to 70%.
Yeah, and we aren't even using it back to capacity. So why we have to address all this stuff when we're doing a pavilion? If we forget the pavilion and go home, then everything just stays as it is until we want to come and build again. Is that?
But according to that, if they build addition 4 at the same size they're gonna build addition 4, now they're over what they do, and I'm going to be permitting them to add another almost 2,000.
And in fact, if we build that addition on 4, if you look at my maps, we're within 3,000 square feet of staying within coverage. So we would, I mean, and we'd have plans, because in the event that we do not have plans to build addition 4, but we would remove this parking from the back of the building currently because it would not be our entrance, and that would actually put us about 2,000 square feet under our max coverage that's shown.
The
So it's
building
possible
that's there,
both ways.
Even if you added the other 3 additions together, that building is still bigger than what those were.
So if none of these conditions existed on the note and they came in today for a building permit to build the pavilion, what's your position?
I would have been fine.
So
They met the setback, they were out. What happened was,
What about
I
the
went out
storm?
there, I wanted to make sure
Tell me again about the impervious coverage, or they,
they met I looked at the impervious coverage. First, I glanced at it to make sure impervious coverage wise that they weren't gonna have to do a stormwater plan. And then it was after I was out there, I wanted to make sure that they weren't in a drainage easement. So I came back to pull the information to make sure they weren't in a drainage easement before I approved it. I found a note from Hanover Engineering about lot addition 4. So I looked at the phases, you may as well call them, the different additions on there. And then when I saw that, I realized, wait a minute, this might be built at addition 1, but it's the size of addition 4. So then according to these notes, and the notes on the plan that he references in his letter, that triggered those other things. I felt like it was an oversight from before, but I thought it was something that now that they're trying to get a permit, this is the time that we address it to make sure that we're not going to be changing the storm. We're going over that in the future, and I have no idea why it would have triggered the EDUs. Honestly, Scott said, where's the connection point for the sewer?
Taxiway taxiway in there.
It's pretty far away.
Yeah.
So-
Or ramp, or,
So I
landing down there.
I just have a question. So they overbuilt? They built beyond the original permit? No.
We did
Not
not.
They
quite
built-
yet.
No.
Not quite yet. Okay, I got it.
He's
I'm
calling
just,
it building 1. It's definitely bigger than building 1.
But we're mixing coverage to use, it's not the same discussion. To me, it's simple, if she's saying she can't issue the zoning permit because she's saying we built building 4, those notes need to be addressed. In my opinion, it's a very simple discussion. If we built building 4, that needs to be addressed. If we haven't built building 4, those notes are still as applicable as they were when they were written. And that's our side of it is we haven't built building 4, and I'm not saying that we have plans to, but those notes are as good as they were when they were done in 2002.
I mean, at this point, if you haven't built building 4, and what grounds do we have to deny
You
it?
don't wanna call it building 4. I'm looking at it.
Well, I'm not
as-
calling, it's not building, clearly not building 4, because it's not shown on the plan, it's a detached structure.
No,
No.
okay, no, wait, she's saying that the worship,
No, it's
this is
building
building
4.
4. But if, in our minds, that note was put on because building 4 was going to be a dedicated sanctuary. So we're still within all of the occupancies that this sanctuary addition was going to be. It's just the building's
And
larger.
that's, they're saying it was supposed to be a dedicated sanctuary. They built at where building 1 was gonna be, made it bigger, and it's a multi-purpose room that's rated as a sanctuary, according to our building permit.
So the note says that if you, I mean, basically to do the dedicated sanctuary, we would need a lot more parking, which would be shown that we'd have to do. And to do that, we'd have to take our sand mound, or our infiltration area out.
But you're saying that building is already,
I'm saying it's building 4 in a different place.
So,
That they've
but-
already modified the plan.
So then if
they don't need the parking.
if that's
then that
true,
needs to be
if that,
modified.
just bear with me for a minute, if that's true that they built building 4 already, then we, as the township, missed requiring this.
Correct.
I'm not interested in holding them hostage because there's no problem. Like if there was parking issue at the church or, there's a sewer issue, me personally, I'm not interested in.
And that's why I said those 2 notes, like it doesn't seem to be a parking issue at the church, so maybe that note
If they
should
built
be
building
modified.
4 and pulled one over on us, so they'll have to answer to their maker. That's my opinion.
I don't think Dawn and I disagree, other than the fact that the worship center is not building 4. That's the only disagreement. My thing is, we're talking about the coverage on the lot, which we're still
You're still
well
under
beyond
that.
it. Even if we built building 4, we could still keep that under the coverage.
And they're not,
But building what you say would be building 4, it would still throw up all these red flags.
No.
Right.
Yes,
Right,
correct.
because, yeah.
So if you take the notes off, then we've just gotten through something, because we could
They're gonna have
easily
to
go back
do
and
this
build building 4. And now we just took the notes off.
I gotta be honest with you, this is as clear as mud for me, just trying to listen through it, just looking at this for the first time.
That's what I'm saying, to me, the only
So-
issue is whether we built a building addition 4, because that's the definition that she's hung up on. She's saying we built building 4 because of the size of the current worship center. We're saying that worship center is bigger because it's actually a multi-purpose room. We still have, what we were planning to do in building addition 1 and 2 was an expanded sanctuary. That's just how.
I get what you're saying, but you could easily change that to a sanctuary, like building code like if you wanted
We
to.
have a posted occupancy of 300, which matches everything that we have there.
I'm
Okay.
saying the multi-purpose room is actually rated as a sanctuary, and their sanctuary is actually rated as like a restaurant.
I think,
Okay.
I don't know,
It's,
I could be wrong, but I don't know if we're gonna resolve this. Have you been in discussions with Dawn and the engineer to see, because he referenced some concerns with
Yeah.
respect to what?
for months.
Do you have, from an engineering perspective, are
I
we,
mean, that's a check-in. So the land development was approved to be built out in several stages with certain things occurring, basically when you cross the threshold for number 4. So where are we at today? We have this many uses occurring in the building based on BEP, it generates this much sewage. We have this many uses, and per the ordinance, it requires this many spaces. Well, they've got 15 more spaces than required. The existing system either has the capacity or doesn't have the capacity for the sewage flows. That's pretty straightforward in my book.
But what they're proposing isn't gonna change
The
that.
pavilion does not, I agree.
So that's why I say I don't feel like we can hold them hostage for something that someone else, you could argue this all day long, it is 4, it's not 4, it is 4, it's not 4.
They're gonna go through this again the next time they bring it back.
yeah, okay.
Or they should, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we can't just go and pull a building permit for a sanctuary without a.
So what I was trying to
a
get
zoning
at,
application.
what I was trying to get at is, right now you have a pending zoning permit application, and there hasn't been a decision on it yet, from my
Right.
understanding. With all of this being discussed, there are clearly potential conditions she could put, or the zoning officer could put on a zoning permit, if it were to be issued, capturing these issues. One or two from the aspect of the engineer, as well as the note and the idea of if there is a future building 4, whether or not that's building 4, if there is a future building 4, you're gonna be subject to those requirements down the road.
We're not
Something
asking, that's the thing, we're not asking to change those conditions because they would be.
I understand, I'm just trying to talk everyone through where I see this potentially could go, because there is a pending zoning permit application, and there's no, to my understanding, no actual decision yet.
Right.
Because of this issue.
Right.
And it's beyond the 30 days.
Okay.
Okay, so where are we at? Does that, I'm hearing you have no problem, give them the pavilion, they're under,
I see no way he's not.
You have the same-
Even if these things aren't, what they're asking to do is
Right.
not going to be a negative contributing factor to any of those conditions in my mind, and apparently Jim.
Really?
agree.
Including the septic?
I agree, yeah, I
You
mean,
do, okay.
I don't see the, I mean, so the pavilion might attract a handful more people for a given event at some point in time, but it's not gonna
Right.
double the.
There's no restroom facilities in the pavilion.
Well,
Not that they
use-
can't use the church.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I wouldn't see it,
Okay.
my experience has been something like that doesn't double the occupancy of that on a regular basis of the facility.
so Dawn, what are you asking from us for this, because you have to give them the permit?
I'm fine with putting the condition on there. Like I said, it's going to be addressed ahead of time. It just needed to be addressed because I really felt like it was building 4 and I didn't know what, it had to do with land development, it didn't have to do with zoning, but I didn't know what was triggering building 4. And when I'm looking at, they're saying it was supposed to be a sanctuary, it's a multi-purpose room, but according to the rating that it has for the building, it's a sanctuary, or the size of a sanctuary. Then I thought, well, maybe they should have done something with the sewer. So it was just a way to address this, to make sure that in the future, because they've already modified the plan. The plan's modified, period. Because addition 1 is 4 times the size of what it was
The
supposed
footprint,
to be.
so can you just give the township an inventory of the square footage and the uses? Here-
I actually
It
have
has
it
it
on
on
there.
there.
If you look at I wrote the square footage of what's currently built, and the next one actually shows maximum coverage.
77,904 and compared to 114,768.
So we have that information.
Yeah.
The pavilion's not gonna take you over the impervious? That
No,
was-
because we still have
Because
70-some.
they didn't add the
70-some
additional
thousand.
parking, so they're still, they would be within,
The-
without adding
The
the
purple is all
additional
that's actually
parking.
built at this point. So this would have been if we added the sanctuary, which would be this drawing, which was the original coverage of 114. So we still have a little over 85,000 square feet left. And we've improved the stormwater plan to the full coverage. That's been done.
To this?
Correct.
The 114, okay. Okay, well, do I have a motion to, what are we looking for? You need a motion to approve the zone or not, or
No, I mean, right now, it's in her court as a zoning officer, so I
I
think,
guess just.
a recommendation?
that You don't feel they need to modify the
Plans?
plan?
just maybe documentation with conditions.
Yeah, that's fine.
Maybe even documenting the square footage that's currently on there was approved and whatever you come down the pipe. you know, to
We're
comply.
fine with that.
Do you want that in a motion, or are we all in agreement of that?
No, I think,
I think we're,
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Do you want this back, Chad? Is this your plan? Oh, was it? Okay.
if you want to give me a call.
Okay.
Northside Drive, yes? Development discussion. Hi,
How's everybody?
great.
It's been a long night, and I'll try to keep this as quick as I can, because I know.
Hey, you don't have an exec meeting after this. It's
Oh,
not even
yeah.
that long yet.
Who are you? Oh, I'm telling you. My name is Scott Campbell. I'm with Brownstone Real Estate Company. My partner Todd Blacklander could not be here today. He has a daughter, and I won't go into that. In case I start fumbling up here, I'd like to make a couple introductions, and they can bail me out. Mark Hackenberg from RGS Associates is our engineering company, and Aaron Marinas from Russell Craft and Gruber is our attorney. I'm not here representing really Brownstone tonight, but I'm representing our development company, Springbrook Farms, Inc. And I'd like to make another introduction. My partner with Springbrook Farms, Inc. is Don Leckleitner, sitting over here. So he told me I had to talk tonight. So here I am. Springbrook Farms, we've been developing in this township for 24 years. Started in 1995. And some of you were here then and you looked a little different, and so did I. We developed Springbrook Farms, the village at Springbrook Farms, Stone Knoll, and Northside Crossing subdivisions. We got those approved and built. About 800 home sites. It's kept us quite busy. But we'd like to be busy. The reason I'm here tonight is in regard to one of our projects. And we want to try to get the feeling, we've talked to the township staff a little bit about this, but we want to get the board's feeling on something that we would like to do. And if you agree that it's something you would consider, then we'll take the next step. If you hate the idea, then we'll go home. But I'm hoping that you'll kind of give us some leeway here. And it has to do, and I'm going to show you this picture, right, this first one here. It has to do with our Stonebrook at Northside Crossing project. This is completed. It is a 218 unit subdivision, 142 townhouses in the back, and there's 76 apartments in the front. You'll also see in the front of this page is some vacant lots. One of the lots on the left here we have sold to the Lebanon Federal Credit Union. The other two lots have not been sold. A 4.4 acre lot in the middle there and a 2.1 acre lot on the corner. All these commercial lots are zoned highway commercial in the township. So I'm going to pass this out. Another visual here. The other thing we did with the township over the years, what we did is, I'll mention too, is we did a public-private partnership with South Londonderry Township to build Northside Drive. And as part of that whole reconfiguration, that's where these projects came from. We built about 1.1 miles of road, put the traffic circle in, did the traffic light on North Side, and we improved both traffic lights on 322 as part of that project. So we've been heavily invested in this township for quite some time and very proud of our work. What we'd like you to consider, and I know that I'm not going to get an answer tonight, but maybe some direction, is the 4.4 acre lot, commercial lot, it's zoned highway commercial. We'd like to build 42 apartments there. It presents some issues because of the zoning. And so what I'd like to do is kind of tell you why we want to do it and what benefits there are, certainly for us, but not only for us, but for our residents and for the township. So I have my notes back here. I think it's a good idea. Why is it a good idea? And if you agree if it's a good idea or not, if you do agree it's a good idea, how do we proceed given the current zoning? Because if I'm correct, there's no zoning district in the township right now that would allow it because of the restrictions. So why do we want to do this thing? Well, commercially, you probably noticed if you drive through the township that those lots have been vacant for several years. The commercial market is kind of soft. And we're picky. We've turned down people there. We just don't want anything there. We want to have the right thing there.
So who have you turned down? I mean, if you're gonna tell me you turned down people, I'm curious.
We turned down the dollar store, another one who actually made an offer. I figured one was enough. There was a large, what's the name I'm looking for? hardware storage type thing that stored a lot of stuff on site with a lot of equipment. It wasn't that, but it was a similar thing, and we didn't like that with our residents there. We're picky, and we have a large investment there. So that's kind of our thinking there. We thought about building a strip mall. It's not our thing. We don't have experience in that. We've seen other strip malls in the Palmyra area not do well. It's a big risk. It's managing multiple tenants. We did not really like that option. As far as building right now, interest rates are awesome. And the best reason for us is that our 218 unit rental community with a pool, clubhouse, and an athletic field has been in 100% occupancy for many, many months. And in particular, we have an extremely high demand for 2-bedroom apartments. Out of those 218 units, we have 142 townhouses. We only have 76 apartments. Of those 76 apartments, they're half and half. We only have 38 2-bedrooms. The other are 3-bedrooms. So the 2-bedrooms, we have a significant waiting list for that. And so the market's there for us. So that's why for us that we want to do this thing. For our residents, we have a management company that manages our project over there. In talking with the residents, they like the fact that we have other residents there rather than looking at a back of a commercial building. They like that. It would fit in well. If you look at the plan there, that's just a concept plan. That's 42 2-bedroom apartments in 3 buildings. And it would fit right into what we already have there. The bike path is in, the landscaping in the back is in, there's 2 main roads into the project in, everything's in. It's just the vacant land piece in the middle. So I think our residents would probably prefer that. Big part of this is the South Londonderry Township. Why is it good for the township? Well, the first thing it would do, it would significantly increase the tax base, for sure. We'd be building buildings there, millions of dollars worth of assessed value there. And here's the deal. I heard you. I'm going to address that. School, all right? Nobody wants to add more kids to the school, right? It's costly, all right? Well, out of our 38 2-bedroom apartments right now, we have 6 children, okay? So it's going to be very limited. People with children typically do not rent 2-bedroom apartments. They rent our 3-bedroom apartments and they rent our 3-bedroom townhouses, not our 2-bedroom apartments. And we can show the numbers on that. So it would not significantly add to our school system. There wouldn't be
I
any
don't, yeah, I'd like to see the numbers on that. As someone that was on the school board for 6 years.
Yeah.
And
we can show you that.
Had to expand the schools, which I'm proud of, by the way.
Sure.
But more and more people.
I'm not trying to pull a fast one.
More and more people want to move. More and more people want to move in here for the schools.
Sure. Yeah, but they're renting our 3 bedrooms, and we can show you that statistically, if need be. There's no burden on township. I mean, the road, as far as the roads are concerned, private roads are in. Anything we build for these apartments basically would just be the parking, which would be owned by us, maintained by us. Nothing for the township to maintain there either. Traffic, all right? Well, it's zoned commercial now, which we don't know what potential use would be, and I don't know how that would relate to residential versus a commercial use. That's traffic studies are not my expertise, but I don't think that's going to be a huge difference there, or certainly a negative. And lastly, is sewer capacity. We have some additional sewer hookups already. We recently reserved 32 more. For the West Plant, the sewer availability is there. It's ready to be used. we would purchase those and you'd have 42 more customers there. So, listen, we think it's a win for us, we think it's a win for our residents there, and we think it's a win for the township here in so many ways. So, if you are so inclined to agree with that line of thinking, how do we go about that? Well, in consultation with our attorney, we talked about, and with this township staff, we talked about 3 possible ways. A zoning change, some type of variance from the zoning board, or what we think is the best idea is to work within the current zoning language and provide what we would consider a text amendment to the zoning for highway commercial, allowing us to do that. I think in a packet I provide a sample one of those. Hopefully you have a copy of that. That's a draft. Certainly we would solicit comment from the township on that. We realize that there's a lot of other steps that we have to go through here, but we wanted to present this to you this evening just to get your thoughts, your comments. Are we crazy? Do you like it? Do you agree with us? Do you not agree with us? We'd like a little feedback here because we kind of want to know how to proceed on this thing.
Well, why'd you say that there's currently nowhere else in the township that allows that?
Allows what?
This to be done?
Because I don't think any other zoning district that you have here allows.
I get that, but why'd you put it in your, it's not a, what are you trying to make clear to the board there?
What I'm making clear here is that even if we ask for a zoning change, we really couldn't go to another type of zoning that's currently existing in the township that would allow it.
You agree?
When Scott's talking about a zoning change, he's talking about a map change to rezone this from highway commercial to anything else in your zoning ordinance is still subject to the same maximum density limits. So changing it from highway commercial to one of your residential districts does nothing. I mean,
It doesn't allow for the 2-bedroom.
exactly. So
It's not the use, it's the density that you're after.
I beg your pardon?
It's not the use, it's the density that you're looking for.
Yes.
So the use is provided for elsewhere in the township.
Yeah, but it's
the
like
density
That's-
that they
4
want.
units per acre or something like that, you know.
That's one of my, thank you.
Are we required to provide all densities?
No. You provide the use, you clearly provide the use because you have your rentals throughout the project, right? The plan, the original plan. These are just 2 parcels that lie outside that zoning district that the other improvements on their property fall within.
Our zoning changed from when they did their original.
Yeah, so the zoning ordinance that existed when we originally did this project is gone.
Good.
So,
Not so much.
Have you driven back there? Can you get a fire truck through there?
That's Campbelltown's call.
Yes.
Ordinance permits multi.
I got
we
it.
have had a fire back there, and it was very nicely bought by.
No,
We lost 4 units. Yeah.
Did you have a comment?
Just curious on the impact on the already troubled Lingle Avenue.
Well, I'm sure you're referring to stormwater.
Right.
When we had these projects originally approved, north side, these commercial lots are part of the north side crossing approval. I believe that was addressed in those plans.
The flooding conditions on Lingle Avenue existed prior to the project being developed.
No, they did. Our residents don't remember that, but they did, and hopefully we'll take care of that in the near future.
But we feel confident that we can handle the stormwater with that, and obviously that would be handled during the land development plan, but we don't have any doubt that we can handle it.
This proposal would actually have less impervious cover than a commercial development of the same site.
What would your plan be for the corner lot that remains then?
I don't know. We'd like to sell it. We'd like a nice commercial user to come along there. It's a signalized intersection. It's a great site. We just haven't had much inquiry in there. What we've been told by a lot of the users is that we don't have enough traffic. Can you believe it? But
Drive-by
they
traffic.
tend to like 322. So that's been our challenge as far as that's concerned.
My only issue with the text amendment is that it kind of makes their plan irrelevant because it affects everything that's zoned highway commercial,
Right.
not just the plot that they're talking about with their plan.
And that was,
So you gotta look at the whole overall.
Oh,
If you're gonna go with the text amendment, you gotta look at the overall. And let the-
and that, I mean, that was actually a plan for this. When, you know, when you sit down the board of supervisors and map out the zones, you know, this area should be highway commercial, this area should be village commercial. You've decided that, hey, these 20 uses in highway commercial would be appropriate in these areas. And there's, what, 9 or 10 highway commercial zones in the, or property zone highway commercial, somewhere around that. So you said these 20 uses are okay here. And what we've done in our text amendment is say, well, by special exception or conditional use, that you add a 21st. Say in certain conditions, if certain criteria are met there, this extra use is appropriate in this area. So it would apply to, you know, it would basically apply to all the highway commercial areas in the township. But if you go through and look at them, some of those aren't going to be appropriate for this type of use. So you wouldn't give the special exception.
Yeah, you're looking at the hotel, motel, and you're looking at McGuire Ford.
Yeah, that would, oh, I love McGuire Ford in front of me, but.
So based on your
You can have
criteria, Aaron,
Oh, yeah,
how much of the existing highway commercial district would be eliminated?
I honestly don't know that. You know, some of the things we talked about were, you know, one of the things we talked about that's in the joint comprehensive plan was access. You want to bring your population in to one point from the road. And you know, along the highway, you know, along 322, there's an entrance on every single lot, practically. You know, this car lot has an entrance, and the next thing has an entrance, and the next thing has an entrance. So what we're doing is we're combining a bunch of those into one entrance that's off of 322. So you know, Jim, I suppose some of these you could put 3 apartments on it and still meet the density or the access. So I don't think any of them would have this number of apartments on it, but you know, you could put 1 or 2 or 3 maybe some places if the access is okay.
How does the density of what you're proposing compare to the density of what's existing? Like, you know, your existing project behind it?
It's the same, right, Mark?
I'm not.
Well, we have
exactly familiar with this.
76 apartments on 6 acres right now, our apartments of our project. This is 4.4 acres and we're asking for around 42. So I don't know what the calculation is.
I was just,
It's actually less than
I'm just thinking through it, if this whole thing were to be viewed as one project, how it compares, that's all.
The apartment part of it, if it was all one, would be about 10.4 acres and
probably about 10 units to the acre. So the section that he just made reference to is about 12.7 units to the acre. This is proposed just on the aggregate of this 4.4 acre site is 9.4.
I think,
Did we,
so, go ahead.
I'm just curious, and I knew this for the school district at one point in time, but do we know the percentage of renters versus owners in the township?
Not offhand, no.
I mean, I've seen areas where that gets all out of whack.
I don't know that, but I don't know that there's any significant, you know, I don't know of any project like ours in the township. Now, anybody can rent their home, and whether, some of our townhome committees have renters in them,
Right.
a small percentage. We developed the Village of Springbrook Farms, which has townhomes in it. There's a very small percentage of people
No,
renting in there.
My concern is when all that gets out of whack in a community, and you know this, looking around, it's not good for the community overall.
I would
I would
say,
just, it's all about
I would
balance
say
to
from
me.
my knowledge and experience is that we're at a very small percentage renters versus non-renters in South Londonderry Township, certainly as compared to some other areas.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Derry Township, they have some huge
Yeah.
rental communities.
I mean, I even look at Palmyra, I mean, not,
Right.
you know, that's shifted dramatically.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm talking about what would traditionally single-family homes as well.
Right.
But when that shifts, it changes the character of a community.
Yeah, what I can tell you from the real estate market in particular, being in that for almost 30 years, is that our market is strong. It's weird because usually when you're strong in residential sales, you're low in rentals. Both markets are extremely strong. And I think that's for a number of reasons, but one of them is a lack of inventory. Especially in the moderately to, the high ends are a different ballgame, but, the moderately priced homes are low in inventory. And there's not a lot of places to rent either. Our property manager was telling us about a lady, and we finally told her she got one of the units, she broke down in tears. I mean, it's because these people are trying to find places to live, whether rent or buy, and there's just not much available out there for them. It's really amazing. It's different than any market I've seen since I've been in this business.
So, for the board tonight, I think the decision or direction you need to give them is, they're asking basically for you to consider adding a multifamily apartment type use to your highway commercial zoning district. So I think tonight, for purposes of the request, you either tell them, no, you're not interested in adding that particular type of use in that district, or if you are, it's not gonna be just to accept the density proposal.
Right.
It'll be basically to say, if you're interested in that, sign a professional services agreement with the township, because it's gonna require the engineer to look at the density, the requirements, so on and so forth, with a potential ordinance for this board to consider at some point in time. But that's contingent upon you even being interested in adding this type of a use to the highway commercial zoning district.
We just need to know if you would consider it. There's a lot of details that still remain.
So in a nutshell, that's really what I see before you this evening. And if you're not ready to even consider that, if you want to direct them to go back, I don't know if you've been before the planning commission, maybe you want to send them to the planning commission to see if the planning commission has any interest in this. But that's, for the board.
And as your solicitor will tell you, I mean, before you adopt any sort of change, it requires advertising, sending it to the county planning commission, sending it to the township planning commission, having a public hearing before this board. So there are, like Scott said, there are a lot of steps, and all of them are out in the daylight. So this is just the sort of the first.
We just felt that, we've done so many projects here in the township, and hopefully people know us and our work, but we don't want to engage all these expensive guys here. If it's not something that you're really would look at as you would consider. So.
Given that what you propose would affect every, I would rather send this to the planning commission and let them vet it out. We're working on ordinances right now, which we're sending to the planning commission. To be honest, I have no idea sitting here right now. That's just me. But.
I don't have a problem with this plan here, but I don't know that I want to change all the others, the whole zoning. Is there a way to allow this without?
I have not looked or compared this to the existing zoning ordinance and the zoning map. I mean, we'd have to take a look at that. You want to be aware, we're not going to be doing any spot zoning type.
That was what I was worried about with this.
Yeah, no, all of that would have to be looked at. And, what zoning, I think so the multifamily buildings are only permitted in the multifamily residential zoning district currently, according to your petition. So the question is, does the multifamily residential zoning district abut these lots? Do you know that?
Yeah.
So I think what was referenced earlier is another potential, it wouldn't be the
So,
density you're looking for.
this
but
is
they
the
would amend the
multifamily
zoning
here.
map to-
It's actually on the same lot. That's all one lot. So this is all the multifamily here, and then part of that one lot, according to this map anyway, is the commercial.
Yeah, in fact, all that land is still in the same tax
Yeah, so
parcel.
it's close to
Right.
it. I mean,
Yeah, so it's all,
not out of
all the same parcel.
character.
So the other potential request that they could consider would be to just kind of extend the existing zoning map to include those abutting properties with the existing multifamily use, which isn't it sounds like it's not the density they're looking for, but you have it. And it would, assuming, so we would look at the comprehensive plan to make sure it all makes sense.
That's what I was suggesting.
So-
Density's 4 units per acre, I believe.
Yeah, so the zoning we had when we built that is gone. So the new zoning ordinance doesn't, there's nothing to go to that would,
Well, if you would,
that's our dilemma.
if this board was so inclined, you could also look at the density that's permitted under certain conditions. We have a concern with putting residential use in your highway commercial. I mean, again, without taking an in-depth look at it, but at first brush, it just doesn't sit comfortably. But we
That
have to
density
take-
back there reminds me of where I grew up in Northeast
Well,
Philly.
I think what you're confusing is, you're talking. where our
I know,
townhouses are.
I know that.
These are
Right,
not
these
that.
are in front of them, I know that,
This is not that.
yes. But, I know that, thank you.
I don't have I'm kind of on the same page with Faith on this one. Like, I don't necessarily have an issue because, it's right next to the existing. But, like, I'm really concerned about how, say we wanted to make this work right there, how we limit it to right there. That's my major concern, and that's not something that's gonna be resolved tonight.
So the best way to convince yourself of that is, like your solicitor said, for us to pay your engineer to analyze.
Solicitor.
Well, but
Yeah, but as he said, to enter a service agreement with the.
It would basically be the
to
request.
look at all of the highway commercial properties and sort of overlay this on and say, okay, what Pandora's box are we opening by have this text amendment?
Well, I'll tell you right now,
Does it-
someone buys McGuire Ford and they could put a boatload of things
Yeah.
there. Right on 322. I mean, that's a problem to me.
The motel right now is looking to try to do a hotel behind the motel. So, I mean, he may, if he can't get his hotel.
That would be
he might
huge for them, actually.
So that's really what, just actually go through each of those properties and put it to the test and say, what's the worst that could happen here? It's the only way to judge that concern, I think.
me personally, I'm not inclined to give you any more tonight than I'm willing to consider it.
Sure. Thank you.
It's a pretty big impact on the community. I normally pull some folks and, I don't live, I live on the outskirts of town, so like this isn't my wheelhouse in here. I was on the fire that was back there. I've driven back through there. It's not always thrilling to get through, but that's not my style of living either. Obviously those people like it because they live there. So I try to take it all into account before formulating an opinion, but I'm not opposed to it in general.
Let me just say, if there's any way you could think of doing it, other than that, we'd be in favor of it. It's a funny situation, and people love it back there. Our next vacancy is in December.
Yeah.
And there's a waiting list. But initially we thought, well, and they don't want to see a bunch of factors parked right in the backyard or their front yard or where they're going swimming. So the people that live there want to see that extended in the middle. And not in the corner, that's a good commercial property. But when we decided, well, let's see if we could get the zoning changed, thinking that We'll just move out what's there, similar buildings, just put 3 or 4 more buildings right out there in the middle. And then we found out you can't do that because the zoning changed, and that wouldn't, we could change it from commercial to multifamily, and it wouldn't solve anything. It'd be like having a couple duplexes to sell out there, and of course you can't take a commercial property and do that. So I think we're torn between, do we do something like that, or do we just say, okay, let's put some shops out there, and hopefully they don't affect the people that live
I
out there.
love living in
They're not
that
sitting there empty like they are
It's
on
fantastic.
422.
No traffic.
So if there's any way you can keep doing it, we'd love to do it.
An alternative you might consider, I mean, obviously drop the density in your multifamily zone. This is immediately adjacent to multifamily. You may want to look at where you have undeveloped multifamily and really kind of assess what's the impact of upping the density slightly in that multifamily district to allow some continued multifamily growth. These homes, the folks are going to continue to create demand in the marketplace. They're going to continue to put pressure on the comment that was made earlier about protecting and preserving farmland. This is one, infrastructure exists, highway systems exist, commercial opportunities exist immediately across the street. From a land use, from a land planning perspective, in my mind, there's not a better place for higher density zoning or higher density land use than in your existing villages and where your community services are available. And it's baffling to me. I looked at your comprehensive plan. I saw there were some density provisions in your comprehensive plan that were upwards of 6 and 10, I think, at one point in time. Those higher numbers do make some sense in the context of creating varied housing stock across your community. But they are planning issues, and they are something I think we should take seriously.
I think he's
I still
suggesting
think-
we have an issue with our comprehensive plan.
But
Who
they
knew?
are planning
That's
issues.
new
They are
news.
planning issues. I think it should go to the planning commission, guys. I mean, they
I
are
mean,
planning issues.
It will. I mean, in the meantime, they can, but I generally agree with this statement. If there's anywhere it fits here. My concern is how do we address that?
How does that fit? How do we make that fit there?
How do we make that fit, and is it a good idea? I mean, generally, sure, it seems to fit there, those uses are fine. And that, like I said, I drive through there, I wouldn't live there, but obviously it's very desirable for some people. Just not me.
I agree. I just don't know how to do it. So
Well-
where do we leave them? I don't wanna leave them without something.
If you're not slamming the door in their face and pushing them out, the idea is eventually Ritu and I are gonna have to get involved to look at some potential, if there is a potential way to implement it into an ordinance that would amend your zoning ordinance to allow for such a use. Not to the extent that's, potentially not to the extent that's already been proposed, but to a certain extent to allow for a certain thing. And it sounds like Ritu has some reservations with respect to allowing the residential, at least wherever the highway commercial is as a whole throughout the township. Maybe not necessarily in this specific location, which may bring us back to the potential map change. But before I think you give Ritu and I the green light to even look at this, I think the professional services agreement will be appropriate because this is a request from the applicant, not necessarily something that's being initiated by the township.
Right, I agree with that.
Well, that's exactly what we need. Thank you. We'll go.
Okay, well, do I have a motion to allow Ritu and Patrick to discuss, or to get a letter of
It
professional
would be
services?
allowing us basically to work with the petitioner, we'll call you, subject to them agreeing to and executing a professional services agreement with the township. With the understanding that at the end of the day, maybe there, at the end of the day, if we do come up with something, it's still gotta go through the process and the board may not approve whatever ordinances come up with.
And it would still go to the planning commission.
Yeah, I understand that.
And you and I and your two may not see eye to eye as to what the ordinance may look like.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to that effect. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Carriage Park Phase 3. Patrick, is there somebody here? I don't think there's anybody here for Carriage Park, is there?
No, I don't think so. But, no, I'm
Which
saying
meeting?
we're gonna have to send a professional services agreement to someone. I'm
Right,
assuming
this is
it's-
usually
Yeah, who,
Todd, I think.
Who wants
Who-
the letter? Who should we send the
wants
letter
the-
to?
There's a form professional service agreement, who should we be sending it to? Your attorney, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'll contact you, you can send it to
Okay,
me and
that's fine.
we'll pass it around if it needs to do it.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
That's
Sheriff's Park,
okay.
I'm not aware, I mean, we did learn something with respect to Jenna did a quick title search, so there is a potential issue.
Is that, do we need to discuss that exec? Are we tabling that? What are we
Nothing
doing
to
with that?
act on tonight.
There's not, okay. So we'll move on. Municipal Authority Ordinance Assistance.
Yes, the letter and the attachments to that letter reference some problems, ongoing
Mind shutting
problems at the
that?
Long Wastewater
Thank you,
plant, due to some properties that have some faults in their private sewer lines. And the authority has been in contact with these folks by email. In May of 2018, certified letters were sent out. Out of about 7 or 8, 2 have corrected their situation. So we have about, what do I have on here, 5 or so outstanding yet. And the authority is asking for assistance via ordinance 204 for the township to kind of help us out to encourage these outstanding, these remaining people to fix their sewer lines. This has been going on for a while, and as you can see, we've gotten some notices of violations from DEP. I responded to the first one. I only had 15 days to do that. I'm working on the 90-day response. I just want to avoid some subsequent fines, or just want to if they see we're doing something, we're already in, and I reported on this before, working on a grant to rehab some manholes that may be leaking, but we know these 5 connections are giving us most, if not all, of our problems during rain. The plant is only rated at 22,500 gallons a day, which is not much. When it rains, that goes up to over 300,000, which is the resulting in these violations.
So I guess don't understand what the supervisors here, I'm looking at this ordinance, there's a process, there's fines, correct? That is the next thing.
Yes.
So.
Well, it would be enforcement action through the code enforcement officer to send notices out, as you routinely do for ordinance enforcement.
But since it's a municipal authority.
They need permission from the supervisors to do that?
Supervisors to give them permission to.
And herein lies the problem, with the municipal authority being separate, but not really separate. Is that
The authority has no enforcement action
action? Okay,
via ordinance to enforce any of the ordinances.
gotcha.
And that's why this ordinance was developed. It was originally developed because we suspected there were a lot of sump pumps in the system, and this is very targeted for people with sump pumps. It gets into home inspections and fines if you don't arrange for inspections, but that's not what we want to do. We already have televised the lines, we've identified the sources, and would just like, the process.
so wait, this ordinance would allow us to go into existing homes
I think we took that out.
and,
No, it does. It arranges for an inspection, which
You have to.
we're not even doing that. We're not looking for sump pumps at this point. We just want to enforce section 2, which is
Discharge.
prohibited discharges, which is any natural precipitation, groundwater.
Section 3 specifically states, every person owning improved real estate that discharges into the sanitary sewer system shall within 30 days after written notice allow township employees to inspect the buildings and property to confirm. So yes.
That's my concern.
I thought they took out it was a little more enforceable. It was a little more.
Any
enforceable
person
than-
refusing to allow their property or buildings to be inspected shall be immediately become subject to the surcharge hereinafter.
Yeah, but my understanding is the inspections have already been done.
Yeah, we ran the camera through the sewer.
Yeah, they're not going in, but this allows them.
I'm not,
to answer.
I'm not worried about that. I get that. I'm worried about like, if you want to inspect all my neighbors' houses, this ordinance applies.
If we suspect a sump.
A sump pump.
Right. But if right.
My understanding of what the request is they've done the inspections, they've narrowed it down to certain properties that have I&I issues, and that they provided notice, right?
Yes.
To a number of homeowners, and maybe some of them have resolved the issue, maybe some of them haven't. It's the ones who have not are still allowing I&I to get into the system, and the authority is asking to proceed.
Is anyone from the municipal authority ever here? Ever?
We used to, when we had a fifth Tuesday of a month, we used to have joint meetings, the board and the authority.
But I guess my question is, the next thing is the fine, correct? I mean, you're not going in and expecting anything, you've already done your inspection. The next thing is you start fining them.
Well, it's up to
Or is that
Dawn,
not
whether
right?
she wants to follow up on behalf of the township, and I don't, I'm trying to, I think in.
They want to know if I have to go inside. You've already done the inspections outside, there's no need to go inside, is the problem.
Right, but she said the next step would be a fine.
Right, after the letters are issued.
Right, that's what I'm
And they
saying.
get the proper
Right,
amount of
you would do
time,
a letter on
then
it.
the next thing is
So
the fine.
the letter's been sent by the municipal authority.
Correct.
A couple people have fixed it. The next step is it comes from the township,
Correct,
and then after that, if they're not complying, then it's a fine.
yes.
So I would send a notice of violation,
Mm-hmm.
giving them a certain amount of time to comply, and then.
If they don't, then the fines start.
The fine starts.
Right. So we're the in other words, we're the bad guy. The municipal authority is doing this. We have no control over them, but we're the bad guys.
So the municipal authority has no recourse. They can't put liens on properties, they can't repair the work, and then.
Fine them or charge them.
Well, I guess the township's putting the lien on the property, they put liens on properties when they don't pay.
Yeah.
But in this instance, that's not gonna do them any good, because it's not gonna get the problem fixed.
Right.
I mean, ultimately, if
Well,
they don't fix it, we'll be filing something with the district magistrate. I mean, with individuals that don't fix it, they're subject to a fine, and we'll file something with the district.
And then how are they gonna fix it if they're fined?
It says after 30 days of receiving notice of violation, any person who shall fail, neglect, or refuse to comply with any of the terms.
But we have to adapt this ordinance for all that to apply.
No, this
No, the
ordinance.
Oh, the ordinance already
This
exists.
has already
Yeah,
existed.
Alright.
you already decided to
With
be a bad guy
enforce.
before your time.
Yeah, I don't know.
Check these guys' signatures, right?
No, I said, the board already decided, previous board.
So
before you
what do
guys
we have to
decided.
do? Why do we have to, what are we doing?
Hang on a second.
You're protecting the environment.
No, I mean, what are we doing? What do we have?
I don't have any issue with it, it just, again, goes back to the whole, we have no control over the authority other than we appoint them.
They never come here.
No idea what's going on, we're supposed to
Looks like
sign
we
the
don't go to
checks
their
and approve the
meetings.
bills, and.
Yeah, but we appoint them.
It's subject to, if you remember, there is a management agreement between the township and the authority.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked at it since I looked at it 2 years ago, but I'm sure somewhere in there, this is addressed. And before we do anything, we'll look at that, but ultimately, it's a matter of sending them a notice of violation. If they don't fix it, you file a complaint with the district magistrate. And if they show up, I'll be honest with you, what the district magistrate is gonna tell them is fix the problem or you're gonna get fined. And each day there's a violation, it's gonna double. And at the end of the day, that's,
It can be a pretty good deterrent.
yeah.
Is it civil or something?
I was actually just looking at the penalty
And
section,
it's-
there's
it
no
doesn't
reference.
state. Oh my gosh.
There's no
So
reference.
many of our ordinances are rules for things.
Yeah.
So.
Of course there's not.
Stop responding to high grass complaints.
It doesn't say that here, but I'm thinking it's gonna fall under summary citation. I'm sorry, but.
Nothing. Yes, Jane?
What exactly is the problem with the sewer lines?
Getting infiltration. The groundwater is getting into the sewer system.
Lawn in itself has always had a very high groundwater table. And when it rains and for days after, the groundwater seeps into the ground, and then there are some openings or cracks, or well, some of the ones that were repaired were actually cracked fittings. So that groundwater then enters into those sewer lines and travels down to the wastewater facility and overloads it hydraulically with too much groundwater flow coming into.
And what do the people have to do to repair it? I mean, do they have to
Dig it up.
dig it up and put in a new sewer line?
They're gonna hire Jack.
Repair.
Some of them have already hired a plumber to run a small camera down through, and they found where their problem lies. So they know where to dig up their yard and open it and just go down there and do a repair of where the broken line is.
So yes, they have to dig it up and repair it.
But, so what exactly are we being asked to do?
We're asking, the
Giving
municipal authority,
permission
we're
to
giving
enforce
Dawn,
the ordinance.
yes, we're giving Dawn
Which
permission.
arguably mean that don't necessarily mean, but yeah.
Okay.
Basically, it's probably just the municipal authority letting you know that
Well-
their requesting needs an enforcement.
And also because of the pending fines and whatever would come from no action, I copied DEP on the letter. And I've been copying DEP on the letters to the residents, just so they know I'm doing something, I'm making some progress. They do like to see that.
Okay, do I have a motion for anything?
Scott, so the Lone Fire Company is one of them. So we asked, not in writing, but we have asked numerous times for proof, because we cambered our line. I cambered it with my camera I own. We hired a third party to camera it, and we found nothing wrong with the lateral. So we asked, Kevin numerous times, like, show us a video, prove that we have a problem. Because quite frankly, if we have a faucet running wide open in the firehouse, there's, it's not against any ordinances or rules or laws. Have these other people like made any attempt, or these are all people that, other than the fire company, that made no attempt? Like you don't hear from them. What's the status of these?
Some of them, I'm glad you brought that up. Some of them did come get permits. They haven't started work yet, right?
Correct.
Am I
Yeah.
sending them a letter? They have a permit.
I would at this point, because we're getting into winter and it really.
Whoa. Can we back up? So, you guys cambered the lines and found no problem.
Right. So when they go down the main, the camera goes down the pipe, and then you can see the lateral coming in the side. They look for clear, steady discharge, constant. It never stops.
Yeah.
It just runs and runs and runs. So correct me if I'm wrong, but when they see that, those are the people that get the letter. So the fire company got the letter, we cambered the line, we didn't find anything. Time went on, there's part of the problem with like all those organizations, there's 6 of us involved in this at various stages, and various people had conversations with various other people, and we had no problem. So then Scott, I don't know if you talked to Carl, we got the email, however it came back around again, and it came before the board, so we hired a third party to come and camera it, and we got the same thing. We see no problems. So it wasn't until, I don't know, a couple days ago that we actually got the video, and I would agree with Scott, there is clearly a lot of water. So, but it's not like the fire company, it's not like we didn't do anything since whenever that date was. And that's why I'm asking, like, have these people, are they disputing it? Are they?
We've had some dispute it, and I've sent them a link to the video.
Yeah.
I believe that was last summer. That was when the certified letters went out.
Yeah.
In May of 2018.
There's
So
not really an appeal process with that, is there?
The what?
How do they
They say, how do you know that it's my lateral? So we sent them the video and
Right, I'm
said,
just saying it's not a true appeal process.
No, they would have to.
no, it wasn't official. It was just say, prove it to us. So, so we provided the video to those that contested it.
All right, I think at this point, it sounds like notices went out a year ago, but nothing's really been
But
done
not
other
from
than,
me.
not from you.
Well, I
So-
mean, why does she need special permission from us to enforce an ordinance?
Right.
that's already there?
That I'm not sure, I'm not privy to why the authority did that, but it might just be like, almost like a courtesy, hey.
That's what I'm saying, I
Yeah.
think it's just mainly a courtesy.
Yeah, it
to
wasn't
be
anything
like, we're
vicious.
gonna direct your code enforcement officer to enforce this ordinance on these people.
Yeah,
Well,
it's just that we've exhausted all of our resources.
Right. I get that. But she enforces ordinances, that's what she's paid to do.
Right.
It seems to me, you're coming here going, hey, the township's doing this. That's already what she does, so why don't she just do it? Am I wrong?
Again, I'm not sure, I didn't go to the.
Like, why does the
municipal
township
authority.
have to take action? That's what I'm saying. The ordinance is on the books. That's why I was confused. The ordinance is on the books. We have a codes enforcement officer that enforces this stuff. Why are we sitting here talking about this when the code enforcement officer should enforce the ordinances? Am I
Probably
wrong?
because we're their management in the end, we're above them,
I
correct?
think it's more of almost like a notification courtesy thing. The authority has done some work up till now, and they're not
Okay.
getting any leeway with some.
With their
And they
in-house
help
stuff,
the
they have not got.
township to get it completed.
So now they're looking for formal
It doesn't
enforcement.
sound like you guys have an issue,
I'm gonna recuse myself either way, because I'm on the board of the fire department.
I mean, I don't think we
Enforce
need
the
to
or-
vote
I-
on it. I'm not voting on it. I don't think we need to vote on this.
I don't think so.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's just, she enforces the law.
The only thing I might suggest is because it's been so long since the original notice was sent out, would be to send a reminder and say, hey, you got this a year or whenever.
Well, I think those are gonna come from Dawn.
Yep.
Yeah, but,
Right.
and please address this before we have to move to formal enforcement. So rather than just slap an NOV out there, oh geez, I got this a year ago and I forgot about it, let's just.
I mean, they did get them certified, they
There
came
were
certified, so.
people,
Oh, yeah.
my thing is, there were a couple that recently just got permits, like in the last couple months.
Permits to do the repair work or the
Yes.
correction?
Well,
And
Dawn,
he's saying-
that is up to, like,
Yeah,
you're the
that's
next
up to
step,
you.
you're the zone, or the code enforcement officer.
It's not gonna be us.
You're the
No,
gonna be bad person.
But it really, no, but it is up to her. If they got permits, like if I was in, I'm not saying what to do. But if they
I've
got,
got it handled.
yeah, if they got permits, they got permits. Like I don't understand that. Like,
Okay, we got it.
alright, thank you.
South Londonderry Township Police Department QRS discussion is going to be tabled or moved on to another time. Mount Gretna road closure request for Mount Gretna Art Show. Do I have a motion to accept that? We already did that via email. Didn't Jenna email each of us individually? What was that?
No, I didn't think that was the art show.
No, that was
Oh,
our
was
show.
that something else?
That was one of the
Bike ride?
bike races.
Right.
Okay, so we need to do a motion to accept that.
Did we get an official application, I'm
Right.
presuming, or how's that handled?
Yeah.
Because it's just a closure and it's a state road.
They got all that? She was in her report here, I forget what she said.
And you're good?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
she has the,
Right.
CVOK via Mount Gretna. could
But
proceed
you
with the
guys
permit to
enforce it,
close.
right? I think that's why.
Motion.
Because we don't have
Okay.
to let them.
We
don't
have
to
a
enforce it.
motion from Jack to approve the, do I,
Yeah.
we have a motion from Jack, Bill, to approve.
No, I just asked because it's a state road, but we enforce the closure.
Yeah. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye. Sorry. It's
That's
getting
okay, it's
punchy.
getting long, way long. Oh my gosh.
Line
I said that
painting.
we can move the MS4 education to the next meeting, and this meeting runs so long to short.
Okay, good. Let's move on to the line painting.
Okay, the roads that we've done as far as paving, this year do not have line markings on them. So I got 3 quotes and thought I could get a better quotes, so I actually went to the extent to get 4 quotes, so,
Sweet, I only have 2 in my packet.
yeah. Would you like me to read all 4 off?
Sure.
I'll go with the lowest to highest. D.E. Gemmel, $3,511.24.
That's the one you have.
Burke Traffic, $3,958.76.
Gotcha.
Alpha Space Control Incorporated, $4,130.88. And this is the one that I thought, I went with, try to get a 4th quote to get maybe a lower price. This is Lincoln Pavement Services, $10,327.20.
Yikes.
Oh, they're a little high.
Apparently
They don't want to do that. They don't want to do it.
Yeah, I don't know that they
Okay.
want to work.
What are you, I mean, are all the other 3 companies equal in your opinion in terms of quality of work? In terms of what they
Yes,
do?
we've used them before. They're well-known in Ritu.
Campbell does good work.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Which one?
Just to clarify, Scott, this is like regular, out of your regular maintenance budget? It's just
We
because
have a
it's
line item for
11
line painting.
Just because it's, what, $11 over, or the spending threshold? That's why it's here.
Yeah, well, it's, the cost per foot went up considerably from last year. I have no idea why. I budgeted, well, I got to forecast this August of
Yeah, yeah.
2018, so I asked for 3,000 for this, so it's $511.24 over budget, what the line item is in the budget. So.
Motion to approve D.E. Gamble,
Second.
351124.
And Bill seconded. Any questions? All those in favor?
Right.
Oh, gosh. Okay, Bright Bill Long flagpole donation. So, we have a quote here for this. It's $2,448 for this pole, flagpole, which was initially going to be at the park, but then the township building was built, and we asked if they would allow us to put it there. So they're going to install the flagpole at approximately 30 feet tall and a plaque in honor of one of the Longs. They have $3,520 in donations that was deposited in the park. So they are just seeking approval pending the sketch plan submission. Do I have a motion for this? There's already lighting out there, electric already, when we built the building.
And they have more than they need, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Motion approved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Community tree lighting ceremony. Dun, 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 dun. Do you guys have
Are you awake?
anything to report?
Are you awake?
Wake up back there. Did you bring your pillow?
Finally, the only thing we have to report is, look, we're hoping to get a location.
Will you tell me your name?
Jennifer.
Okay, and last name and your address.
Jennifer Bushta, Carriage Park.
Okay, thank you.
So we're hoping, I'm with the Community Alliance, Campbelltown Community Alliance. We're hoping to get annual tree lighting started in Campbelltown. That would be great for the community, great for children. It's something nice to drive by. It's just location. So we found 3 possible locations. We were hoping, our favorite is Village Square, which we're hoping someday will come to exist next to the house, that white house on 322. And
Gray house.
Is it a gray house?
I don't know.
Probably was white at some point.
It's white with green shutters,
Yes.
is how I view it, but
With the dumpster. But
Yep.
That, because I believe Jenna said that lot is owned by the township, so we thought that would be a great place for a town square at some point and put a tree there. That would be, we're hoping to get a live tree donated. We had mentioned having it at the township building here because of the electric, but Jenna had said with the water, the system, it's not a good idea. And soccer field, and she mentioned a couple other things. She mentioned the community park, the soccer field. I believe you had said that you were worried about vandalism.
With the intent of vandalism can be anywhere. I mean, look at the park back there.
They cut the trees back here.
And that's a good location too, because the tree could get as big as whatever, we just have to figure out electric. And that would be a nice spot too, because we could utilize hopefully the fire hall for festivities and get with you guys with the Santa on the truck, and, you know, maybe kids could get their picture with Santa or whatever, you know. So right now it's just trying to get a location for it. Once we get a location and your approval, you know, I can start asking around, or if you guys can recommend somebody that might want to donate a tree.
Don't we have electric out at the park? It's stubbed in somewhere.
There's conduit, my recollection, has been a while, there's conduit stubbed back. I don't think there's any service there yet.
Okay. I'd have to pull those plans to even see where.
Yeah, to the best, I know that we ran conduit back to the general area of the, you know, proposed possible future pavilion, but I don't think there's electric service there. There's no meter, we don't pay a bill there. Because they're running an extension cord to Pat's house.
There we go.
I'm not seeing that. Yeah, well, yeah, pay for the electric.
Okay, well,
And we really need to make a decision whether we can do it or not, because you've got, if we're doing a live tree, you've got to plant it in fall. And so we've got very little time before we can make this happen. And so we're looking for your wisdom as to where. We backed off the Village Square idea, but then we keep hearing from people saying that would be the best location. And then I did stop at the country string business there in the old Campbelltown Fire Hall, and they're willing to let us use their community room that's in there, which is very historic, as a place to come to afterwards. That we could park, most likely at several places.
Where?
The Township building, and the daycare facility, and probably the optometrist, if we did it on a Saturday evening, nobody's open, their parking lot, and other people could walk, and we could actually do it there. We presume you've got electric, because there was a house there once.
I doubt it. It was probably turned off when the house was taken down.
Okay, so we can't have anything unless we can find a place. We walked around the community park the other morning and looked at a couple of possible locations, but you're the ones who make the decision.
Why couldn't we do it here? What happened here?
Well, there's stormwater facilities. I mean.
Yeah.
And then the soccer field.
And then the soccer field and the playground. I mean.
And lots of vandalism out there.
Yeah, I'm seriously disgusted with that. Can I say? That whole park has been shredded. It is disgusting.
So it's not like it's impossible to camp there.
Isn't there like off the end of the parking lot here, Scott, or something? Like, I mean, it's not like off the end of the parking lot here. I mean, the infiltration, most of them are to the left, if I recall that.
Yeah, it's pretty directly behind. And,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, definitely have to pull plans to be sure, but.
I can't imagine we can't find somewhere here.
Well, that and why not over?
It's on this.
It actually goes down, right, it goes down on this hill. It's way down behind Springbrook there.
What's that, the stormwater?
Yeah.
But there's an underground infiltration snake system there that we have to locate for sure.
And what about back by the rocks that are back there? The rocks with the plaque somewhere. I mean, it's not video camera, that is the problem there. Do you know what I mean? Back by the park?
The rock just kind of outside the back door here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the camera hits that. I don't know, we'd have to look.
Yeah, one of them does.
It's kind of nice. There's a plaque there with one of the past supervisors on there. It's by the park. You can have parking here. I mean, I'm hoping the vandalism stopped now that it's cameraed. We can at least catch them.
Yeah.
Several people doing it.
repeatedly.
Get them all.
And we file
Good.
charges.
Thank you. Because that makes me so mad. The volleyball net was trashed. All the basketball nets are trashed. Stuff my kids have played on since we moved here is trashed. The merry-go-round's gone. Sorry, I'm getting punchy now too. It's very late.
I agree.
There's no lighting up there, correct? I believe there is. We installed lighting at Country Square for that reason, because we were having problems with the neighbors complaining about kids hanging out there, so maybe, you know, at some point we might want to think about a
What about the
light
yeah,
there.
face like back the rock?
Back by the rock.
Back by the, yeah. I'm all for doing this. I don't.
Can I get with Jenna when, well, I'm going away. I'll be back sometime, the 26th.
So, maybe.
Maybe, I've left. Can I get with Jenna and pull the plans and look back there?
Wherever you go, I mean, you don't need my permission, wherever you want to
Yeah.
put it. I think that Town Square would be great, but it's just, the logistics are just horrible.
The
Ultimately,
walking, the parking
yeah.
just sounds like a nightmare.
Anywhere you can put it here, that doesn't matter to me.
Okay, so I have a
Or if
permission
you can
from
find a
both of you
place at
guys
the
to.
park over there, at the park, you don't need my blessing, you know, wherever.
Well,
Yeah,
they
I think
do
we're-
need your blessing.
Yes.
I'm giving you my blessing.
Oh, great. I'm
Make
not
it-
doing
make
that
it-
by myself.
make
No,
it
I
work.
think
Make it work
conceptually we're
somewhere.
all for it.
Yeah,
All right.
So,
make it work
So I
somewhere.
get back on the
Make it work.
26th. Can I get in touch with Jenna and we'll pull the plans and see if there's someplace here
Absolutely.
that we
I
can
mean,
do?
if you want me to come look when you're looking, I'll gladly do that, but you don't need to wait for me to come back to a meeting to make a motion.
Make a decision. Okay, so,
We'll make it work
She has my
somewhere.
email address, because I actually questioned her, so.
okay. So we'll commit
We'll
on
make
a
it work
place.
somewhere.
Awesome, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah?
The other thing we did ask Jen, and we haven't got an answer yet, is do you know where you're going to be planting the trees in the area at the community park on the north side with the grant that you have?
I doubt it.
You don't know.
That they're talking, yeah,
Okay.
I'm not to throw you under the bus, but I'm guessing you don't know, and I don't know that we've heard yet.
There was some discussion about, like, their sewer line going through there or something, where they were gonna put the trees in the park.
I'm missing what you're talking
I
about.
think that still goes back to we don't know.
Where was who was discussing about the sewer line?
Well, I heard somebody said that where you were gonna put the riparian buffer for the, from the $90,000 from the Sunoco fines, that there might be some kind of sewer line that's.
Yes, that's all been worked out. It's documented. The plans were submitted to Ritu, so they're aware of where the sewer line is.
So, but you can still plant the trees there?
Yes, I don't think there is any conflict with that project.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the walkability audit. Also,
There's a suggestion about trying to put a walkway from, I can't see this, from 322 down where that open area is next to that house that's as one of the suggestions for starting to put walkways in. So that's just for your consideration.
okay.
You don't have to make a decision today.
Just as a reminder, we did the audit, 4 people did it. Jane was one, Peter Blusco, Janie Miller, and Andrew Geronimo. And they couldn't come tonight, the other 3. But the intent was to test our instrument that we made, the audit form that we borrowed from a variety of different organizations that have used it. And secondly, they wanted to see how good it worked for them. And we also realized we didn't have an expert with us. Mostly when there's an audit going on, somebody from an engineering firm goes with them to draw attention to issues and da-da-da. And that's why earlier this evening, way at the beginning of the evening, I sort of asked you if we could not apply for that grant, the transportation planning grant, which you're going away, will be back to August 26th, but it needs to be written, and it's very short, and
My problem with that, when I read into that, it says that yes, you can do that you can get a grant money to do that, but then you have to commit to put those in place within a year.
No, you don't have to put them in within a year. You need to do the plan, but then say what you are planning to do within a year. And part of our problem is more with crosswalks than sometimes the sidewalks, because we have a lot of sidewalks in the different developments. It's the issue of connecting. So I know that that it is really possible to try it, and we don't get the grant, okay. But the process by which they recommend that we do it and have stakeholders, that's why I gave you a lot of draft ones to look at, because I think we do have a good chance of getting it. And if Retu would take the time to look at it, they may be able to offer some thoughts on it. Thank you.
I don't have it marked. I could have sworn it said you have to do it within,
I thought you had a year to implement it.
you had a year to implement it. Yes, I read that somewhere. I don't have it highlighted.
Certain requirements to be completed within the first year of the plan. As I read it, I didn't see that the entire plan needed to be implemented in 12 months, but they want to know, in exchange for the grant for the planning work, what are you going to do in the first year after the plan will be finished? Right in the middle, number 3 in the middle of page 3 spells out potential lineal miles of multi-use paths, sidewalks, bike lanes, etc. that will be addressed, doesn't really say what addressed is, during the initial 12 months. New sites that will be connected within 12 months, and the number of people potentially impacted. So we did it for North Cornwall Township, what we call the non-motorized connectivity plan. And we looked at ways to get people through the township using existing facilities to the greatest extent possible. Now, granted, we didn't have to cross 322, which limits your ability to cross 322 with pedestrians is limited. But we were able to move through large parts of the township with some signage. So there
Didn't we already direct Ritu to look at crosswalks? Didn't we already decide we were gonna look to see where to put crosswalks?
Well, yeah, because
We did.
we were looking for some type of standard guidance so that every time someone comes in, says, I want a crosswalk, that we're not out there spraying crosswalks.
Willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Well,
Doing
we can't,
crosswalks.
I think we were looking at what we can legally actually do.
Well, that too,
Yeah.
yes. But to make a plan.
I
for
just
that.
don't foresee us getting this applied for in an organized fashion.
It's a lot of work in a little bit of time.
Well, and I'm back to, what does this mean? You have to plan it out in 12 months. You have to show something that you've done in 12 months. This multi-use paths, sidewalks, bike lanes, and public transit routes, that we don't have that in the
No.
budget anywhere at this point. And that's significant
But it
money.
certainly can be.
So at this point, I don't
see
hear
it
anyone saying that that's going to happen this year. I mean, we're going to have to figure out how to even budget crosswalks for next year, if that's something that we can move forward doing. So,
Just as a reminder, there's a lot more grants available now because of the health issue. That because obesity, Lebanon County, 30%, 29%, so the Department of Health and others are really pursuing providing more grants.
Pat, and I think we should look at, grant opportunities. I think this window is too tight.
Well,
But I do think we should look at grant opportunities, make sure we know what actually they commit the township to going forward. I think I'm all for looking at those type of opportunities. I think this particular grant at this particular time is I don't see us being able to do it.
The other situation is we need to consider, or in my own opinion, if we do want to do any of this stuff, most grants are matching grants. And we don't have that in the budget now. So if it's something
Right.
that we want to do, we need to start budgeting
Well,
before we even.
I think we need to look and, like, there are opportunities out there, is what I'm saying. I don't think I'm against grants or necessarily doing something in the future, or even allocating something in the future. That's a discussion, a longer discussion. But
Then you want to have
a
tonight?
15-day window, yeah, I mean, essentially to get this done is difficult. So I'm not be inclined, mostly just.
Okay.
You agree.
It's a lot of work in a little bit of time.
Right.
Was there anything else besides that?
No,
For the
and as you
walkability
know,
audit.
The two proposals that we gave to you in June for the consideration for the budget for 2020.
Yes.
Was the Palmyra Road stretch, and so the handout that Jane gave you gives you a couple of thoughts that we've addressed.
Okay. Thank you.
And we can provide some input at budget time if you so desire on some options to begin to tackle it. Because it's a master plan for your community and how you want to move non-motorized transportation through your community, basically.
Which will also lead us back to this map here to look at too, right? Okay. Yes?
I still have trouble understanding why there has to be so much study on 322 for a different crosswalk system. When up and down 422, in every town there's yellow crosswalks, there's signs. There's nothing in this town. I was coming through town and a kid was standing along the road right out here at Brass Rail with his bicycle wanting to cross, and at least 12 cars in front of me went past him as he's standing there before I stopped. I stopped in my truck. He starts out, the car coming the other way. He's not paying attention. I don't we have half of 422's traffic because of the sinkhole. I don't understand the problem with trying to get decent crosswalks in Campbelltown.
I don't think it's a problem for us. I do think whenever we look into crosswalks, and this is why we already asked for guidance from R2. We did that a couple meetings ago. So we already asked for that guidance. But I can tell you that, like, sidewalk to sidewalk, handicap to handicap, all that stuff comes into play. 422, when you look at some of those towns, what? Yeah.
It's the state road.
Right, but 422, when you look at those towns, they have sidewalk, they have
And
that
Annville has
curbing
all that, don't
already.
they? Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that go into it, which is why we've asked for two to look into it and get back to us, so.
Even where you do have sidewalks.
Yeah.
You try to put something like that up in this town, the trucks will just run it down.
And that's
There's no way you could put any type of pedestrian crossing little stand or whatever they are.
No,
that
we
they
could
have in
destroy it in a
Millville,
week.
Down, right out here at the intersection. They blow that over in 2 minutes.
And that's part of what we would take a look at. I mean,
Yeah, that's
we
what
have done traffic calming techniques where we have been effective warnings. There's lots of options to give the motorist warnings. So and if the township's interested in pursuing those, again, when it comes to budgeting time, we can discuss some of those options to begin to look at next year, if you so desire.
But we already have asked them to do at least
Crosswalks.
the crosswalks, yeah.
And then look at 322, the sidewalks going there, because like when you walk down there, some people have sidewalks, some sidewalks are all broken up, some people have grass, some people have gravel, and, look at it as a comprehensive, long-term plan to get moving in that direction, to make it so that you could walk from one end of Campbelltown down to 117 without getting killed.
Okay, moving on. Code enforcement zoning officer advertisement. So Jenna is requesting the permission to advertise for a new code enforcement zoning officer, assuming Dawn will be leaving us January 1st.
Wait, should we advertise that yet? Is that, am I
I don't know.
I guess we give the authorization pending the outcome.
The outcome won't be known until November
Yeah, it's on
5th,
That's what I'm saying.
and then that leaves a month of potential training.
I would hold off.
yeah, it doesn't
Unless
seem.
there's I mean, you haven't
You
submitted
haven't-
I have to
any.
win the general.
But you didn't request this, right? Or you're not resigning right now, right?
That's what I'm getting at.
You're not resigning right now. Well, yeah, I don't see
She
that.
wanted somebody to be able to train with me before I left. I know that was her concern. I believe
I-
last time, it took a while till they hired me. But didn't you advertise twice?
We didn't have anyone, and then we had,
Then
we
you-
contracted
they had a
out.
hard time, and then they got you.
We contracted out with county,
And
with
then
Rob.
that wasn't working out, and you did it again.
But
So
I
I don't know if she's just anticipating
Not finding someone.
not finding somebody.
I don't think we
and
can-
Give extra time.
I just, yeah, I agree with, I'm uncomfortable doing that.
So you want, your motion is to wait.
My motion is to hold off and wait, yeah.
Second.
Second, any questions? All those in favor? Aye. All right, DCED study approval for the administrative office. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions about that? Yes.
What prompted the study?
If you remember way back when the police had one, we also motioned, or at that point asked to have one for the administrative side.
I don't remember that. but-
Yeah, we did.
And it wasn't done.
Wasn't done. And then we asked for it again. And I forget when that was, and it still wasn't done. So now we're asking for it a third time, and it's gonna get done.
Right. Yeah.
Any suggestions they make, is the board prepared to take, because that didn't happen with the police study?
I guess
I know
we'll
it was a
see.
different board, but I'm just saying it was
I don't,
brushed under the table, and until I brought it up at the meeting.
I've never seen one, so I can't answer that.
You haven't seen the police study?
I've seen the police study, I've never seen one that's geared towards it, that's very different, and
A lot of it's recommendations.
studies are all over the
Sure,
place.
sure, but I was just,
it's a
We think
place
it's
to
in-
start, to see if we have the right amount of staff, to see what's needed, if anything.
It's an efficiency audit, right? Right? Yeah.
that's good, I mean, I'm just saying that that was
Yeah.
the goal of the police study, and it showed that they were understaffed, and nothing was done about it, so.
We hired another police
We
officer.
did.
You did hire another police officer, but they're still at the same staff levels from, what, 10 years ago? I mean, they recommended 13 full-time plus some
No, Jared
part-time.
was an addition, so he made us more than we had.
So we're at 7 plus you?
I don't know if that answers your question, but,
No.
okay.
But thanks.
Prospect Road discussion. I'm not sure what, I'm still confused about
I
why
don't think there's
we're,
anything for us to discuss,
why
unless
we
they
need
tell
to
us,
discuss it.
unless they tell us they're tearing the bridge out. What do we gotta discuss? I mean, do we send the other two municipalities a letter telling them that we're,
for it, against it?
yes, that,
Basically, I mean, you don't care.
I think based on the residents' input, that, I think it needs to remain. If Al and the other resident would've come in and said tear it out, I have no issue, like fire department, it's too light, we can't use it, so. But if they want it, I'm not in favor of, abandoning it. And plus, it's gonna cost South Londonderry money, if they abandon it, we'd be forced to make some type of provisions for cul-de-sac or something back there, so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So do I have something, a letter we're sending them? Is
Saying
that,
that we want to,
we're for keeping it? I don't know, it's not our tax money to, although, like you said, it would be our tax money to.
It would
Right.
be, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so do I have a
do they
motion
want
for
us to
some
weigh
sort
in
of
on
letter?
this? Is
I don't know, let me see.
Can we get you some more information that might give you, to help you make a more specific recommendation?
She might have it.
Let me go back to my.
Is this new business? Just have a conversation and regarding the big bridge closure.
I make a motion that we notify Mountjoy and Conowalk Townships that the South Londonderry Township Supervisors are interested in seeing the road and bridge remain.
Do I have a
Okay,
second? Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're about building bridges, not tearing them down. That's what you're saying.
I don't know that we're about building bridges.
I don't know.
All right.
Keeping bridges.
2019 Palmyra Library Farmland Preservation, Leb County Conservation Contribution Approval.
Do you have those amounts, Andy?
Yeah, I have the amounts.
Yay.
The library is $30,000, the farmland preservation is $12,000, and the Lebanon Valley Conservancy is $1,000.
Do I have a motion to approve these?
I make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Do I have any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
MS4 education, should we table that to the next meeting?
Motion to table.
Okay. Fire study update, I don't think we have one. HVAC update, I don't think we have one. Does anybody have anything for good and welfare?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All I'll say is all this new meetings are gonna be, or the next meetings are down at the bottom of the page. All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. No, is my clock right?